Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Put the children to bed. It's time for Dan and Aldo to bare their souls.
I love the Chicago Bears more than I do masturbating, and that is a lot.
Then, with 3 seconds left, Bob Avellini throws a 30-something yard touchdown pass to Greg Latta, and the Bears win, and I literally shit my pants. I swear to God, I literally did.
Eric Kramer, for me, I love the guy. He's a tragic figure. I mean, he embodies all that is.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well. Not for a guy of his caliber.
You know, they won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
So, Dan, tape is the ultimate tool for scouts and for coaches to evaluate players, to detect plays and so forth. And they spend hours looking at tape, right? Why do they so often get shit wrong?
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan and Aldo.
Yeah, oh, I fucked that up. Tried a new way of doing the opening for the show to enhance the audio, and I fucked it up. My name is Aldo Gandia. Welcome to another edition of Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. And as you can tell, beside me is not Dan Aguirre, but the lovely, talented, multifaceted Johnny the Tooch Santucci. John, how are you?
I'm doing well, Aldo. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Dan just texted a little while ago, said he'd be ready to go in about 15 or 20 minutes. He is covering a high school basketball game for his radio station out in Virginia, and we are just going to go ahead and entertain them. Johnny has promised to take his top off and reveal his titties.
I got a Dago T under here.
Oh, nice. I like those. Those are sexy.
Yeah, Danny's running a little late, but the chat room was clamoring for Aldo and Tooch show.
Yeah, so well, they got it.
Ask and you receive.
When Dan calls in, don't answer. We'll do this on our own.
Lots going on, man. I'll wait and do Bears State of Affairs for when Danny gets here.
Yeah, you do that. And I think one of the things we can talk about at the top of the show, and I know Dan is going to miss this topic, but we all know how he feels about Aaron Rodgers. He literally wants Aaron Rodgers to face a bathroom accident and be out for all of next season. But Aaron Rodgers is in the news again because he had a 12-day cleanse, and I'm wondering what the hell they put up his ass, because he is now thanking everybody in his life, his ex-fiancée, his former players. He is just going on and just being in a very reflective and thankful mood, indicating that there is no reason why he's doing this other than just because he's kind of in a state of Zen-like and thanking people. Cliff Victoria asked the question, what was the big news that A-Rod give today? He gave no news. He was just being really kind and nice. But a lot of people saw it as this kind of passive-aggressive treatment of people, thanking them, but really just kind of trolling people because he's in control of the news and he's going to wait to make a decision on his future. Tooch, what'd you make of the whole thing? I got a feeling that he's returning back to the Packers. They've smoothed things over and they're going to try to do whatever possible. And I think he's going to come back. What are your thoughts?
Well, it sounded like a cry for help, didn't it? His Instagram. He broke up with Shailene Woodley, right? That's
I think she broke up with him. Yeah.
She broke up with him, and that's that's going to affect breaking up with your your longtime partner, girlfriend. I don't know how long they were together, but they were engaged to be married. So he probably thought, hey, my future in that department is locked up, and now he's without Shailene, who it seems like he was very fond of her, but and then the cryptic Instagram message, it sounded like he might be depressed. That's the way it struck me at first.
Really? That there could be a psychological issue going on there. Yeah. I mean, he is a very, as Ted Thompson, his former general manager, he's a very complicated guy. When he came out of college, he was just so concerned about the reports on his height because he was only 6'1". He was being knocked by scouts about that. 60 Minutes did a portrayal of him, or a profile of him. And that was one of the main topics during that 60 Minutes report on him, how upset and how he used that to inspire himself and better his play. And then along the way, he's had, there's been rumors, of course, of him being homosexual. And immediately on the heels of that, he started dating high-profile Hollywood starlets like Olivia Munn, Danica Patrick, who is not a Hollywood starlet, but it's certainly somebody in the sporting world, the race car driver. And now Shailene Woodley, who is a bit of a freak herself. And what I mean by that, she's into holistic medicine and all this stuff. And they seem to hit it off. But the reports are from the gossip rags that she was getting really, really tired of not seeing him for long periods of time, him not communicating with her for long periods of time, and that when he did, there were some battles with rages of jealousy because she has so many male friends. So that ended, and now he is looking for either a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend or a new football team. Who knows? So you're bright. He could be crying out for help.
Yeah, the changes are coming, as they say, for Aaron. Maybe it's a good thing. If I were to talk to Aaron Rodgers and tell him, one piece of advice, I would say, hey, sometimes things happen for a reason. Maybe the marriage idea to Shailene wasn't a good idea after all these, issues with communication. Having communication issues is probably not a good recipe for a successful marriage. Although,
no, no, it's not.
He could choose places. I'm in San Francisco would be a good spot for him. Pittsburgh, would be a good spot. Those teams seem pretty close to a playoff run, maybe extended playoff run, or reach the Super Bowl. So things happen for a reason. And this, while he might be depressed and crying out for help right now, the future to me looks bright for him.
On the podcast that he does with what's that gentleman's name? Who does the podcast with him on Mondays or Tuesdays?
Is it McAfee?
Yeah, Pat McAfee show. He told Pat that he and Packers management are in a good place. That it's different than it was a year ago. Apparently, they really want his input. And, it's pretty clear. They've seen enough of Jordan Love to say, we think we made a mistake here. So as long as we want to keep winning, we have to elongate Aaron Rodgers' tenure here as much as he might be disliked by people in the front office, as much as he is not the true leader in the locker room that people, Rodgers won. He owns all of the Chicago pods. That's about all we've talked about all day. Yeah, Foster, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yes, exactly. We've got 2 hours to fill. So. Yeah. And Dan is not here, although Dan has sent a special message to Aaron Rodgers.
Fuck you!
Okay, Dan. We get it. You don't like the guy. But, I do believe that he's probably going to end up there, although he might have a better opportunity to win a Super Bowl with some other teams like the Steelers, like the Broncos, and so forth. But I think right now what he values most is control and respect. And if they're kowtowing to him in Green Bay, then he's probably going to stay there. King Pookie Nation Alvarez says the 49ers might be a good landing spot, but they've got Trey Lance. And so, they really need to take advantage of Lance's rookie contract and build that roster up. That's their plan. And I think for them to deviate on that, it's not a bad idea. I'm not disagreeing with you, King Pookie, but I do feel that the Niners might be more committed to Trey Lance than anything else, including a free agent quarterback who is going to demand, somewhere upwards of $30 million a year or something like that. So the one thing that I wanted to make sure to get across during this segment where we were talking about Rodgers, and I'm dying to get your thoughts on this too, Tooch, is I want Aaron Rodgers to stay at Green Bay. Why? Because I want to own Aaron Rodgers. Because he's been right. I mean, he hasn't, physically owned us, or he hasn't, in a real estate way owned us, but he's owned us on the football field. He's beaten us a hell of a lot more times than we have beaten him. And I want to see those tables turned like the Bears turned them on Brett Favre. I don't remember what the record was against Brett Favre in those last 5-6 appearances that Favre faced the Bears when he was in Green Bay, but I think the Bears had a winning record, and this was during the ascension of Lovie Smith's defense, and they started to get after Favre, and that's what I want to experience again. That's going to bring me so much joy. I don't want to beat Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl if he's against the Steelers. I want to beat him twice a year while he's wearing those ugly, putrid Green Bay Packers uniform colors. And I want to beat him in a way that he's going to leave the field raising a middle finger to his teammates, because it will reveal what a sore loser he is. And when the fans get on him at Soldier Field as he's walking to his locker room after the Bears have defeated him 45-0 like the 85 Bears did against the Dallas Cowboys, I want the fans to give him the finger and let's see if he still owns us. That's what I want. Tooch, your thoughts on that?
Well, that would certainly be the going away party I would enjoy for Rodgers. Just an ass kicking, his last game, ass kicking, But it's if he leaves, we certainly it'd be terrible to not get that opportunity, and I'm with you on that. And I think we're close to that table turning point where he starts to regress. The Packers team starts to get worse, and they start to go into the cycle probably like we're in. And then the Bears and hopefully Justin Fields. And I know a lot of people in the chat room would disagree that Justin Fields is going to be a crucial part of the Bears' future moving forward. But that's where we are right now. We have Justin Fields. I'm excited by what I see from this young man at quarterback, and I would like for the tables to turn for a decade. And enjoy the dominance like we used to have. But I'm with you.
King Pookie says, but we can't beat him. And so that's my response to you, King Pookie, is we can beat him with this new coaching staff, with this new general manager who knows how to build an offensive line. We can beat him if we have an offense that's going to be able to control the ball for longer periods of time so that our defense is not tired out and confused and nervous at the end of games, which is when a lot of times when Rodgers would beat us late in the games when, the defense is running out there again because the offense failed to pick up a couple of first downs to maintain that lead and keep the defense fresh when they were out there. We can beat him if we add some weapons to the offense so that Justin Fields can complete those 65-yard passes that he almost always throws on target, and we've got a receiver downfield other than Darnell Mooney that can make a big play, we can beat him if we have good offensive line protection. I can go on and on with what we need to do, and it's a lengthy list, but that's how you beat this guy. That's how you beat him. You got to have better players, and you got to have better coaching in that order. And we haven't had, for the most part of Rodgers' career with the Packers, we haven't had either of those, much less both of them at the same time. So Art by Nike says the Bears can beat Rodgers. It's a mental game. And PJ adds, with a new coaching staff, hope reigns eternal. That's where I'm at. Tooch, are you still in that hopeful mood, or is the honeymoon with the well, actually you were always a bit skeptical about Eberflus and Poles, right?
I am, because they hired a Ryan and a Matt again, and that to me is like a signal that nothing's changed. It's like it's so Bears that nothing's changed. You know, George is still judging the general manager, and in turn probably judging the coach as well, and he's not qualified to do that. So that's why Dan's just, yeah, we got Pace, we got Nagy out of here. I'm happy. You know, I'm not, because we got, you know, Ryan and a Matt right back again, which is like, to me, signals. It's like an omen. It's an omen that says, you know, things. This is the status quo with the Bears. This is what they do. You know, they just patch holes. It's like, you know, a plumber fixing a leak. You know, just
right.
You know, spackling the leak over and over again.
You're right. I mean, we shouldn't put so much value on people's names, right? But it does feel like a little. Come on, you can come up with a Stanley or a Tony for a coach, or a Jerome, or any other name, but a Matt and a Ryan for your general manager. Come on.
I realize it's a coincidence, you know, and then they hired these guys. They're no guys, you know,
Right.
but they happen to have the same damn names.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, to me, that's a sign. It's like you're looking for an omen or a sign. If you believe in all that crap, you know, this is the sign. It's so Bears.
Yes, it's true. Cliff Victoria says, guys, imagine if McCaskey and Phillips had picked this staff instead of Polian. Well, according to Polian, McCaskey did pick Ryan Poles, and Ryan Poles chose Matt Eberflus. What Polian did was just point out the positives and negatives with everyone that was interviewed, and steered George the right way. You know, Bill Polian has been very effusive in his praise of George McCaskey, which of course you would expect. You know, you got paid $1 million. I thought Tooch stopped being a Bears fan. Did you stop being a Bears fan for a while?
No, that's impossible. You can't stop being a Bears fan.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
There are fans that have either stopped or have become really, really non-participating Bears fans, and that happens with any losing team.
Steven
you know?
Zimmerman, it's like, I'm burning all my jerseys. I'll never be a Bears fan again. You know, it's like,
that's what Zim said. Yes, exactly. I haven't talked to Zim in a while. I hope he can join us on a future show.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. You know, it's for guys like me and you. I think guys from our era, Tooch, you're in your mid-50s, is it?
Mid-50s, yep.
Yeah, and I'm in my early 60s, approaching mid-60s really fast. I think for guys like me and you, you know, being a fan is a lot like it carries a much more emotional relationship, an emotional tag to it that is really hard to break, unlike most fans nowadays. I don't mean to be critical of millennials or, you know, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever they're called, but I do think that things have changed because there's just many more things now to capture your interest. And so, you know, if you watch a 3-hour football game with the Chicago Bears every Sunday and they're getting their ass kicked, you're going to say, why the hell am I doing this? You know, I'm going to go play Sega or whatever the fuck, PS4 or 5, whatever the fuck there is.
Man, you are so right. That's a great point, because they're kind of like, I got better things to do. I can be on playing Call of Duty. The new Call of Duty's out. What I need to watch the Bears get their asses kicked, you know? But the diehards like us will be watching and stuff. That's what's, you know, the younger crowd, they just say, fuck it, I don't care, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's, and I remember when I was young and I would read books like Future Shock and The Third Wave and all these books that were predictions about the future. And they would talk about you're going to have so many different choices to watch on TV. I was like, yeah, fucking A, man. This is going to be great, man. I'm tired of just having ABC, NBC, CBS, WGN, and a bunch of snow-filled UHF channels. And fuck this, man. I want 200 channels to select. Well, now there are times where I learned for those old days when you knew half the nation was watching the finale of The Fugitive or the finale of MASH, and there were literally 100 million people watching the Super Bowl. It was a community, a national community watching TV together back then. Now, fuck, man, we've got, when my girls were living at home and my wife, if there was a big football game on, I was watching it by myself. My stepdaughter was in her room watching Friends. My daughter was in her room watching Disney, and my wife was in her room or in our bedroom watching some murder mysteries. So it's like we can't even do that at home nowadays. It's changed so bad, Toa Hang says that I'm looking gangster tonight, brother. You know what, man? I grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in the city of Chicago, Humboldt Park area.
Yeah.
You would drop your watch there, and you better run, because a lot of other. No, that's not the joke. The joke is, people wouldn't ask you for the time. They would just take your watch. That's the joke.
Clemente High School area.
Clemente High School is where I went, baby. Best baseball team of its era. I haven't followed their high school baseball team in a few years, but back then, quick story, since we're bearing ourselves here. Back when I was in Clemente High School for my senior year, which was 1977, a lot of you motherfuckers weren't even born at the time. The Clemente High School was playing CVS at Sox Park for the high school city baseball championship. And we lost, unfortunately. We lost. I won't get into all the details, but on the train back, me and my girlfriend are on the L there at outside the old Comiskey Park, and some guy brushes by and grabs her ass. And so she turns to me and she goes, "That guy grabbed my ass." And the immediate thought I had was, fuck, I gotta fight this guy. Shit, I don't want to fight this guy. So I turn around, and I was a few inches taller than him. And I said, "Hey, you grabbed my girl's ass?" He goes, "Yeah, fuck you, man." And he pushes me. I threw one punch that landed and knocked him back. And that's the last thing I remember, because a bunch of people were all over me, punching me. Somebody might have bitten me because I was bleeding out of my ear.
Oh my God.
But the good part of the story is that my girlfriend fell in love with me, man. We went back to her sister's house. The apartment was empty, and we had the best sex of my teenage years.
It was worth it. It was all worth it.
Absolutely. Tony says he stayed on Sacramento and North Avenue for a while. Damn, you know what? There were a lot of good-looking whores back there. Yeah. Right on North Avenue on Sacramento. Yeah, I grew up around there, Tony. Humboldt Park. We played a lot of sports at the park there. Flag football, softball, 12-inch softball. Was a coach and a manager for a 12-inch softball team that won championships with trips to Puerto Rico, where we played teams in Puerto Rico for a couple of weeks. And those are my old stomping grounds. Every once in a while I drive by there again, to reminisce, and man, the neighborhood has changed. Things look better than they did before. It doesn't look quite as depressed, but that's probably due to the gentrification that's going on in that area. So anyway, we're expecting Dan Aguirre any minute. Oh, wait a minute, I got a text from him. It says a few minutes ago. Let's see what he's got to say here. Just finished. He's got to piss and he'll be ready. Whoa, man. I wish I had a camera in there.
Right on.
Tooch, so we're going to talk about the Bill Cosby show later, because you had the same reaction that Dan and I had about that 4-part series that's on Showtime. I did my
homework. I watched, Showtime. I watched all 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Once you watch one, you're like, you can't put it away, but it's the dirty feeling you get from watching it. It's like, it's horrible. But yeah, we'll talk some Bill Cosby.
Yeah, we'll talk Bill Cosby. As far as football, as soon as Dan joins us, I want to talk about the free agency that is coming up. A few things that I lifted from the radio that we can react to. Dan's giving me the signal to give him a call, so I'm going to do that right now. And so you're going to see how this works behind the scenes, because Dan is not on StreamYard. It's not really on yet. I don't see the little green light. I've got to call him through my Skype machine and then pipe in Skype through my mixer, which then pipes it into StreamYard. And then we usually do a little audio test, because sometimes he's overmodulating, not because he's heavy, but because his microphone is not calibrated exactly the way we need. So I'll wait for his little green light to start. But I'll also say that besides talking about those subjects that I just mentioned, we will also talk about the Super Bowl. This is a topic that Danny has been, and I say Danny because that's how I got him written on my Skype thing. Or Dan has been dying to talk about some of his favorite Super Bowl moments. And I got to say, man, it intimidates me when he says, because this guy's recall on shit is so fucking amazing. And I can only recall what kind of pot I was smoking during the game. I can't recall a lot of details from Super Bowl 23 or whatever. We could talk about Super Bowl 20, that one, because I've seen it a few times and stuff. But there are other moments in Super Bowl history. A lot of it has to do because that's the one game of the year over the years that I will see with a lot of people. Because it's not about watching the game. It's about getting high, having drinks with your friends, and getting, it's about socializing. Dan, on the other hand, he has to have seen these games multiple times to have that great recall. But in any case, we will talk to him. He says he's ready to go. So let me press this button here that says calling. Oh, there's the ring. Here's Dan Aguirre.
Yes, sir.
What are you wearing?
A Nirvana Nevermind 30th anniversary shirt.
Oh, never mind. You are live on the air. Lower your mic gain just a tad, and we'll be ready to rock and roll.
How about now?
Oh, you sound awesome. That is Dan Aguirre, who's joining us now. Let me put your picture up on the screen so people know what you look like, and then we'll get started. Dan and I Tooch and I were talking about Aaron Rodgers. Do you remember that guy? We knew you'd be.
I've been like, God, gotta get finished. And as soon as they come on the air, we got to talk about this fucking guy.
No, we're done. Trust me. Everybody in the chat room is like, okay, stop talking about Aaron Rodgers. You and every other podcast in Chicago is talking about Aaron Rodgers. So fuck him. He is. He did get a cleanse though, and so we're all speculating that it was not a mental cleanse, but an anal cleanse. And so I'm sure you're happy for him for that.
I guess the guy Kevin's back around again.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's the guy's name, right? That he was roommates with for a while, right? And
they were male lovers together. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just
absolutely not. I wish that if Aaron Rodgers is really gay, I wish that he would come out, and so that way it would. Although he may not be the best superstar in the sport, to come out and portray gay people in a positive light, given that so many people dislike him. But I would love it if some football superstar who's gay came out publicly and said it. So that way it would help people accept it more. People who play in the game of football, people who cover football, and fans of football. Because there's still a lot of people who have a stigma against gay people in general. So having said that, let's get started with our topic of discussion. But before I do that, Dan, how have you been? What's been going on? I know that you are either working a lot of hours or you're in love, because you're not texting me as much as you normally do.
No, it's not the love thing. Yeah, but I'm working until 4 p.m. tomorrow, for example. I'm still trying to pay for this Florida trip that's coming up. And so, yeah, I've been working a lot of hours. I think I did 84 last week.
Holy cow. I
got 76 this week.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was your age, there were periods where I would work, those kind of hours, because I was so invested in my career. But man, I got to tell you, that's fucking some risky shit, man. For your health.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. I managed to score. Never mind. I don't want to change the topic here. So where were we going football wise?
All right. So here's the thing. One of the premises of tonight's show, besides talking about favorite Super Bowl moments, is this is the time now where Ryan Poles has really got to start showing us something, us fans, about what kind of a team he's going to build, how he's going to build it, because very soon, in 3-4 weeks, it's free agency. And so a lot of people have told us that he's not going to make any big signings. So I started to think about that. I'm one of these guys, build through the draft. I would rather sit through a 1-15 season, and then after that, we've got the seeds of something special for a long term, than to go through another 8-7 season or 8-9 season and have a team that's just going to be mediocre like it's been with the Bears the last decade or so. But I started thinking maybe I'm wrong. Maybe given the state of the roster, given the state that you got Mac and Quinn, who are towards the tail end of their primes, maybe you should do what the Rams have done and trade away a couple of other big draft picks and try to win now in 2022 or 2023 by making some immediate investments, investments on players who can deliver high volume play, high quality play right now. Dan, I'll ask you first, and then we'll get Tucci's thoughts.
As much as I would like to just jump in and be like, yes, let's do that. Let's try to win. I want to come to Chicago at your house next year and be there for the NFC Championship game. Whatever. Maybe that could still happen, but the Rams' approach isn't analogous in my view because, again, they had Aaron Donald, whom you perceive to be the best defensive player in football. They have a veteran quarterback. Again, I like our quarterback. I like Justin Fields. But at this juncture, there's no doubting that Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback. So they had a better quarterback. They've got playmaking wide receivers. I mean, Cooper Kupp got one vote for MVP of the league and was Super Bowl MVP.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of other players in the mix that we don't. So I don't know if it's a fair analogy to say, well, let's go ahead and do the George Allen thing and trade all our draft and get a bunch of veterans and go for it now. But I don't know if the situation is similar in any way.
Yeah, you make good points there. I don't know if it is similar, but it is a route to potentially consider. I am sure that that's been part of the discussion at Hallis Hall. Can we make a run in 2022, given the assets that we have, players that are under contract, the money that we have for free agency, the draft capital that we have? Can we, put together something that will give us great confidence that we've built a team to win immediately, as opposed to doing this more methodically and building a team for long-term success, but won't deliver immediate results? Tucci, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, as far as free agency, you mean?
Yeah, in terms of making a choice of building a team now to try to win in 2022, or do you think that, no, fuck that, let's just build for the future?
I'm built for the future all the way. I don't think it's possible to make some moves in one off season to get to a championship, this year. It's going to take multiple years. Although you and I have said this many times, it's the Bears never want to do that. They never want to bottom out, tank or whatever, just to get those high draft picks. And fans don't want it either, but that's what it takes. I mean, we should have been doing that the past couple of years. We let we kind of let the shelf life expire on this team. It went a little bit too long. So I don't think we have a chance other than to build like long term through the draft and young free agents.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to tell you, I don't think it's impossible you need luck, as with anything when you're building a team, you need luck. You need guys that are going to stay injury proof and so forth, injury, free. and you need to hit on some guys that you need to get lucky with some of the guys that you sign. Like you're going to sign a handful of minimum contract veterans. And you've got to get lucky to sign guys who are just really going to buy into the philosophy of the team. We're going to buy into the system, and that results in big plays that these guys make. We've seen it over and over and over again throughout the NFL. All of a sudden, there's a guy on the highlight package as ESPN whose name you never heard of. Here's a running back that came out of nowhere. Khalil Herbert is a perfect name. 5th round draft pick. Nobody expected him to play, as well as David Montgomery, but he did. And so you need more of those kinds of hits. So I got some audio here, Dan, that I think we can react to in terms of, building a team. Like some of the major free agents on the team, should we sign them or should we go? And this is based on The Athletic has published a couple of great articles, one by Kevin Fishbane on the salary cap, another one by Adam Johns on some of the free agents they should or shouldn't sign. And so on their podcast, they went through some of these names. I'll start with Allen Robinson. I think we all kind of agree that Allen Robinson is gone. And those guys at the Hogan Johns podcast, by the way, Kevin Fishbane was filling in for Hogue, who's on vacation. They all said, they all agreed with the future of Allen Robinson. But listen to them in their words.
Gone. He will be playing elsewhere.
Do you think the Bears could convince him to take a 1 or 2 year deal with the hopes for him in getting a longer, more lucrative deal down the road?
I think they could. I just wonder if Allen Robinson wants to be a part of what the Bears are going to be the next 2 years.
That is true. I mean, did you guys see the tweet from Max Markham? Let me get rid of that tweet so I can put this graphic up. Max Markham tweeted out, one of the weirdest ideas I've had. Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy liked Allen Robinson so much that they tagged him for $18 million and gave him starting snaps. Then, to the detriment of their own careers, they actively schemed him out of the offense just to sabotage him. Delusional. And guess who responded to that tweet? Allen Robinson, 154, 151, 66. And what he is referring to there, Dan,
Targets.
are the amount of targets that he got. Only 66 targets last season. Now, do you think that may have been because Pace and Nagy were delusional and tried to sabotage him, Dan? Or do you think that was just because, he was playing for a rookie quarterback and there just wasn't any chemistry there?
Maybe all the above. I honestly don't. God, I hate to defend Matt Nagy. And I know that, he did a lot of dickish things, such as not talking to A-Rob after the Saints playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
But do I think he actively said, we're not going to throw him the ball? Like Isaiah did Jordan in that All-Star game in '85? Like, we're not giving him any shots. I just don't think that happened. Maybe it did. I mean, why would it have? I just don't. I don't know. But I'm not trying to be some expert that breaks down the tape and the film and all that kind of shit. But I can say this from my eye, the novice eye, the fan eye, it looked like he was never open. He was hurt several games. Like I said, it looked like he was never open. And it looked, and I hate to besmirch him, but it appeared that he just lost his fire last season. Maybe it's because he really didn't want to be here, and maybe the Bears re-signed him thinking that they were going to trade him and they really didn't want him here. We can opine on this all night, but the bottom line is he did not have the same something. The intangible, I don't know what that intangible is called, but it was palpable that he wasn't the same player last year. And having said that, again, if you're missing numerous games, and you don't seem to be explosive, and your heart doesn't seem in it, yeah, no shit, your targets decreased. But if you told me Nagy purposely did that to him, I could buy in. I'm just going to say he probably didn't, but who knows? That bald fuck, maybe he did.
The narrative that A-Rob quit on the team, I just don't buy that. I mean, if he did, he cost himself millions of dollars.
Well, I'm not saying he purposely quit. I don't want you to think that I said that. And if I did, I apologize. Let me correct myself. It's the same thing. It's almost similar. If you say that A-Rob quit, that's right up there contingent with the Bears purposely didn't want him to get the ball to me.
Mhm.
Those are very similar, and I don't believe any one of those are true. I think it's somewhere in the middle. He didn't have a good year. They didn't have a good year.
Mhm.
You couple that with inconsistency at quarterback, and it all came together for the season that we had.
Well, the one thing that gives credence to that conspiracy theory, for lack of a better way of putting it, is the fact that A-Rob did complain that after the season, he was supposed to have a Skype call or Zoom call with Matt Nagy, and Nagy never called him to schedule it. They never.
That's what I was referencing after the Saints game.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's this feeling that maybe Nagy was pissed off at him because there wasn't that same communication. Steven says he sabotaged Fields. Where to go? He sabotaged Fields, of course. So he did that to Robinson. That's what Stephen Nagishi feels. I don't think that Nagy purposely sabotaged Fields. As much as I dislike him and think, I think that he's incompetent. I don't think he purposely sabotaged anyway. Why would he do that? He needed those guys to play well in order for him to keep his job in Chicago. He didn't want to get fired. He doesn't want to go back to being a position coach for some team. He doesn't want to go back to Kansas City. I don't even think Kansas City wants him. I always have had a feeling, not always, but over the last few months or so, I had the feeling that Andy Reid was giving him all these platitudes because he wanted to get rid of him. It's like, yeah, he's ready for a head coaching job. Let's get rid of this fucking guy.
And maybe the Bears will take him. They're suckers.
Exactly. So I just don't feel like these guys would negatively do that, and I just feel like they're just cutting their own balls off if they're going to sabotage Fields, sabotage Robinson, and it's a lot of it has to do like what Tooch has been saying for years now, and what we've been saying on this show since its inception is that Nagy's ego is so fucking bloated that he trips all over himself because he doesn't realize he's a narcissist. Let's put it that way. Bear Truth 9 says, although I'll just put it this way, I would not put anything past Nagy. BT9, he's a former cop, so he would know.
As much as I want to agree and jump on the pile, because as you know, I'm not a fan of Matt Nagy. Mm-hmm. It's easy to do that. It's low-hanging fruit. I would like to be a part of that mob,
mm-hmm.
but you have to put some of the blame on number 12 too. I don't remember seeing him wide open and, Fields missed him, didn't throw to him. Dalton didn't throw to him. It seemed like he was constantly covered or he was hurt.
Yeah. I agree with you, Dan, that, but the thing about A-Rob's game is that he doesn't create separation. What he does is that he wins contested balls. So he wants you to throw him the ball when a guy's on his hip. Because that's his game. He's going to come away with the ball. BJ says Nagy wanted his offense ran his way instead of adjusting to it, the talent that he had. And that is absolutely correct. That sums up Nagy since the time he got here with Howard, Trubisky, and Fields. And yeah, today Mitch Trubisky was trending because a lot of people are saying he's getting a lot of praise now and saying that this guy is ready to become a starter because of what he learned at Buffalo, that there are different ways to doing things, that Nagy had him thinking too much and not letting him flow with his athletic skills, things that we were asking for of Nagy for years, that he was hampering Mitch Trubisky. And so that's the narrative now with
I'd like to see Mitch go to play for Lovey and win. Wouldn't that be ironic?
Wow. Well, that would be ironic. And that's one of the things that I'm worried about is guys, just like the Leonard Floyd syndrome or whatever the word is, there are going to be free agents who are going to leave the Chicago Bears this year, and I bet you they're going to resurface. And one of them is A-Rob. A-Rob is going to probably not be re-signed. 99% sure he will not be re-signed. And he's going to reemerge with a veteran quarterback, and he's going to have big, high-profile, high-productivity games just like Leonard Floyd. Bank on it.
Might be opposite Devontae Adams next year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The interesting article here. Yeah, it would suck big time. Gene Chamberlain, who writes over at SI.com, their Bears Digest blog, he writes that the Packers offense, which Luke Getsy is in essence going to be running here, although he's not calling it the Packers offense, he's saying it's our offense. And what he means by our is he means the assistant coaches, him, and the players are all going to develop an offense in unison. But he's going to borrow stuff from the Packers and how they did. Gene Chamberlain points out that the Packers all had big receivers, guys over 6 feet, 210-pound receivers. That little guys were hardly non-existent. They had 10 wide receivers. 8 of them were over 6'1" and over 210 pounds. And guys like Andrew Lazard, is that his name? Alan Lazard, he may not have caught a lot of passes, but he was so instrumental in their run game because he was such a dominant downfield blocker. And so if the Bears are going to follow that Packer offense blueprint, then one of the things they're going to need to do is to find some big target wide receivers to replace a big target wide receiver in Allen Robinson, and also add to the roster because it's so diminished right now, particularly in the wide receiver
But
area.
Aldo, don't you think it's fair to say that A-Rob had a bad year?
Oh yeah, fucking A, and he admitted it. He said in his podcast, this was the worst year I could have ever had to have a bad year going into free agency. Yeah, he had a bad year. There's no doubt about it. No doubt.
I think if we attribute that to Nagy too much, we absolve him of having said bad year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, let's talk about another free agent who is going to be out there. By the way, let me get rid of this. The next guy on my list of free agents that they talked about on Hogan Johns is Akeem Hicks. Everyone has been talking about Akeem Hicks is gone. There's no way he's going to come back. But I do find it interesting that Akeem has not talked to the media when at the end of the season, he said, when the season's over, I'll talk to you about Matt Nagy. He's got a lot of unpleasant things to say about Matt Nagy and maybe Ryan Pace. The fact that he's biting his tongue is probably a good business decision because he doesn't want to fully close that door with the Bears management and himself because he loves Chicago so much. But in any case, Hogan Johns, this is Kevin Fishbane talking about Akeem Hicks.
I was going through Sheil Kapadia's top 75 free agents looking for interior D linemen because the Bears could use one. You know who the top ranked interior defensive lineman free agent is?
Akeem Hicks.
Akeem Hicks. Now, the guy's been in a 3-4, but we know when he's out there in the nickel defense, we know what he can do with the,
He can push that pocket, yeah.
He'd be fine. So it's like weird because I feel like physically speaking, he could be exactly what they need. But when he was having those conversations with us about his time in Chicago being over, he knew this was going to be a new regime too. Yeah, I don't see him coming back.
But he had a falling out with that regime, we could say.
True, yeah, but I think he was talking as if his time with the Bears was done.
True. I think he hits the market too.
All right. So remember how I started this segment talking about win now? These two players, A-Rob and Akeem Hicks, if you re-signed them somehow, some way, all of a sudden now, you got an opportunity to win now. You guys disagree?
I would like, in theory, for Akeem to stay because, as you know, both of us, I can't speak for Tooch, but I know you and I both really like Akeem and we fans of him.
Big time.
But Nichols is up too. He's a better player than Nichols when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
He's had like 3 straight years where he's been banged up. We only really had one game this season where he appeared to be like Akeem Hicks of old, where it just like he was just firing on all cylinders, and it was like that's the guy we've missed. But I don't want to close the door on him, not because of just emotions. It reminds me similarly of when we thought Lance Briggs was gone. It's just like it was an absolute guarantee that he was gone in the offseason after the Super Bowl. He was supposed to be going to San Francisco, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he gets a 6-year deal with the Bears when everyone thought he was gone. He said he was gone. So it's like we've seen this before. Maybe he is brought back 1-2-year deal. I don't know. Like you said, it's a brand new regime. They can patch up hurt feelings because it wasn't my bad. It wasn't our fault, you know?
When Akeem Hicks is healthy, he plays like a player that's worth $20 million a season. But the last few seasons, it's proven, and I was always concerned about his weight and the pressure he's putting on his feet and knees and joints. I think it's starting to catch up with him. He's added too much weight. During his time here with the Chicago Bears, I bet you he's added 30, 40 pounds. And if he can get in shape, and you can sell him, or you're going to be a rotational player. We're not going to play you 60, 70 snaps. It's the same thing with Mack and Quinn. I wouldn't play them that many snaps either. I think that, this whole, and we're going to talk about this a little later, this whole hits thing and then the loafing thing and stuff, I think that's going to demand that a lot of players, particularly not Roquan Smith, because he's a young guy and the guy's got the Energizer Bunny inside of him. But these older guys, these guys are going to tire out, and you want them fresh for the fourth quarter. Dan is always talking about, the Bears fucking defense took a siesta in the fourth quarter. Yeah, you know why? Because they've been out there all fucking game. But
they do that even if the offense has played well, they still do that.
No, you got to remember this, Dan. And I used to yell at Phil and Shane about this too. Other teams' defenses are getting burned too. It's not like you can't expect the Bears defense to pitch a shutout. I remember Mike Singletary saying, I'm always searching for the perfect game. If we get the perfect game, it means they get no yards rush, no yards passing, and 0 on the scoreboard. That's never going to happen. And it will happen to no fucking defense in the NFL. So I think the big overall problem, when you look at it from a macro level, is that the defense is out there too long.
Theory, again, I can't disagree with you, but there are instances where the offense has played really well and it just came down to, okay, we just need one stop and the game's over. And if you build your team, you pound your dick and you beat your chest and puff it out that we're a defensive team. And then when you need one stop and they can never get it, that's the part that it's asinine to me. If you're a defensive team and you just need one stop and we're done, let's get that stop.
And
that's when they let the team go 90 yards every time. When it's time, like 3 and out here, and the game is over. Well, let's let the other team have 16 plays and 91 yards, and we'll lose.
And players on the defense will tell you that same exact thing. Like when Tooch and I were talking to Alex Brown at Soldier Field during our fantasy football draft, and Alex Brown, we told him the Thomas Jones story about how if they would have kept them in, they would have won. And Alex Brown said, I love my brother, Thomas Jones, but the defense lost that game. We didn't stop him.
Yeah, I've wanted to say this so many times. I love Thomas Jones as well, but Cedric Benson got hurt in the first quarter and missed the rest of the game.
No,
so it's not like Thomas Jones wasn't in there. He was in there like 90% of the time because Benson was hurt.
No, he didn't get hurt in the first quarter of the Super Bowl.
Yes, he did. I will bet you $50 right now on PayPal you. If it wasn't in the first quarter, it was early second.
Okay, I'm not going to bet you, man. What the fuck's wrong with you?
I don't ever bet, but that's how confident I am in my remembrance of Cedric Benson's knee.
Can you look this up, too? What quarter did Cedric Benson fumble in the Super Bowl game?
No, he fumbled early, but he also got hurt early.
I think it was early.
Okay.
First half, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I told you, I drink and smoke during Super Bowls. I don't remember shit.
Well, what I'm saying is Thomas had a lot more carries that day than Benson because Benson was hurt.
Yeah. Okay, but still to your point, the defense feels the way that you describe how you feel. They take it upon themselves. They take blame. I've heard defenders for the Chicago Bears saying, doesn't matter what the offense did. We know what our job is there. 3 plays and out. And when we don't do that, we feel bad.
This is going back to Super Bowl 41 for you.
Okay.
Cedric Benson fumbled on his first rush and was knocked out of the game with a knee injury on his second carry.
Holy shit, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so there you go. And I'm looking at ESPN.com now. Bears running back Benson leaves game with knee injury.
Wow.
Dateline Miami. Chicago Bears running back Cedric Benson injured his left knee in the first quarter and was ruled out for the rest of Sunday night's Super Bowl against the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow. Dude, man. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, he was hurt with 116 in the opening quarter after being tackled for a 4-yard gain. After staying on the ground for several minutes, his trainer stretched out his knee. Benson got on his feet and walked off.
Hair Bear says, I can't believe you questioned Dan's memory. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, Hair Bear.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I love Thomas Jones, but to me, the thing I wished I could have been a part of either one of his performance or appearances rather on the network. Because my question would have been, well, what do you think? Because look, I liked Grossman. I did. He was 21-14 as a Bears quarterback, led us to a Super Bowl. You can say we had great defense, but he still did it. But Rex didn't have his best game in that reign. The question I would love to ask is, what if we'd have turned to Greasy?
You think we would have won?
I honestly do, because Rex threw that
a lot of those games, though.
in the fourth quarter. We were down 22-17 in the fourth period of that game. The victory was there. The victory was right there. I honestly thought if they'd have turned it, because everyone says this about Orton. Orton was the third stringer. Like, he wasn't active. Like, Greasy's the backup that day. And to me, if you turn to Brian, maybe that's what we needed. When it appeared that they were keying on Thomas, he couldn't run anymore, and Rex couldn't throw it that day. I think he was hampered by the rain. Yeah,
the play calling didn't suit what was going on. And you know that Lovey would have never, after a whole season of saying Rex is our quarterback, there's no way he was going to make a change in the middle of the Super Bowl game. So,
yeah, but your goal is to win the Super Bowl, man. We can patch up our feelings in the offseason.
I get it, but you could have made that, there were games during the regular season where you could have made a shift too at the quarterback position because the situation required it or demanded it or suggested it. And Lovey just was very, very headstrong. I mean, one of the things about Lovey Smith and his new head coaching opportunity at Texas with the Houston Texans is he has got to be a little bit more malleable to change because things have changed. And
I'm going to be rooting for him, though.
Me too. I am too. Absolutely. But if he's going to be as headstrong as he was with the Bears, there was an article, I didn't get a chance to read it, where the headline was Lovey Smith knows he's got to change. He's from his past mistakes. He's learned from those past mistakes. If he does, then he is going to, change certain things because he was just his favorite thing to say at press conferences, besides Rex is our quarterback, was we stay true to our beliefs. We know our system works. Dude,
we get off the bus running.
Yeah, that's another one. Dude, and rarely was that true, to be honest with you.
It was in 05.
Yeah, I guess.
And when they had Kyle Orton as a rookie, man, Thomas Jones was running against 8-man fronts the whole season.
Yes. Foster says, Orton, he got us there. Hello. And so nobody brings up Orton. Now, Dan,
Orton didn't get us there. He didn't play one fucking snap in 2006.
Dan, you do not like Kyle Orton, do you?
I don't dislike him as a man. I didn't like him as a player, although all my criticisms of Kyle Orton seemed to go out the window a little bit when he was in Denver because Josh McDaniels was having him throw the ball. He had a couple of 300-yard games in Denver, although they were losing. But I thought in Chicago, he was Mr. Screen Pass. And I mean, you just look at that game against the Falcons with all the cold in 05 when they finally brought Rex in. That's the game Kreutz had to separate Muhammad from basically beating up Kyle Orton on the sidelines because we were tired of his 2 for 12 for 13 yards in the first half. And they brought Rex in. The first pass was to Muhammad down the field, deeper, had more yards on one pass than Orton had in the first 2 quarters plus. Standing ovation when Rex came in, standing ovation when he completed that pass. To me, that's what Rex gave you. Orton was afraid to throw the ball. And it just drove me crazy. Rex and Cutler at least had the balls to throw it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And one thing that I will never forget, an NFL Films clip of Orton mic'd up on the sideline on a snowy game. I don't remember the game. You probably do. And Orton saying, "I don't care if I complete a pass the whole game. As long as we're running and picking up yards and we're winning, I love this, man. I love it." And at the time, I had this feeling of, yeah, that's fucking great. A quarterback who doesn't care about completing a pass. But over the years, I come to think a little bit differently about that sound that they captured on the sideline. And I give him credit for at least putting winning above his own stats and his own personal performance. A lot of fucking players say,
but I think a lot of people think of Kyle as, he took us to the Super Bowl or something. Like I said, he didn't play one game in 2006. Rex played almost the whole season. Greasy got in a little bit.
That is true.
Orton in 05 got benched, and Rex came in and led us into playoffs. Won on Christmas night in Green Bay, clinched the NFC Central Division title in Green Bay. Rex Grossman did that, not Kyle Orton.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2008, when Kyle got to start again, he had a chance to make the playoffs. It was week 17 at Houston. We had a lead, and Kyle lost. The Bears lost. Had they won that game, perhaps we don't even trade for Jay Cutler. But it was obvious after that season, dude, like, this guy's not good enough. Like, we can't win with this guy. No matter how much he's liked, they finished 9-7, and they didn't make it. And Kyle had a chance to win and in against the Texans, and they lost. So those are the two things. He played a lot in 05. He got benched. He played almost the whole season in 08, 15 starts. They didn't make the playoffs.
What how many years was Orton in the NFL when we traded him to Denver for Cutler? Do you remember?
He was in Denver like 09, 10, maybe 11. At some point, and he ended up in Buffalo and actually beat Aaron Rodgers as the member of the Bills, and he ended up in Dallas too.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, how many years was he with the Bears before they traded him? 3?
5, 6, 7,
really?
8, 4 years.
4? Are you certain on that?
Yes, he was a rookie in 05.
Okay.
Because we cut Chad Hutchinson after Rex got hurt in the preseason game and started Orton on opening day on 9/11/05 against the Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
We lost that game 9-7.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game that Lance Briggs hit Patrick Ramsey with the clothesline, and he never played again for the Redskins, and gave birth to Mark Brunell as the Redskins quarterback. But anyway, Orton was a rookie in 05. He didn't play it down in 06. In 07, he started the last 2 games of the year. And in 08, he started 15. In 09, he was traded to Denver.
Yeah. See, because I remember when they traded Orton to the Broncos, I was not a big Cutler fan because of his moody attitude. I thought, rich fucking kid. He's got this fucking look on his face like nothing. He's happy with that. So I was disgusted by him when he was with the Broncos, but I knew his talent. So I was happy that we finally got a quarterback who could flick the ball and it goes 60 yards downfield.
Right.
But I remember also thinking, I just got this feeling that Orton is starting to get it and starting to play well. As I'm looking through his stats here, yeah, he really
look at the last game against the Texans. What did he do when the pressure was on? When it was win and you're in
2008?
Yeah. The thing is, too, you have to remember, and this is what got John Gruden fired in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Bears were so far out of it, they needed Tampa to lose like their last 3 games, and Tampa lost all 3 of those games, maybe the last 4, which is what got Gruden fired. So Tampa had to keep losing, and with Brian Greasy, ironically, and what that meant was the Bears had a shot because they were winning those games, and it came down the last week of the season. Again, you win and you're in because all these other things went right for you, and against the Texans, and we lost.
Laz says, wow, fucking Dan's memory. And I say, if Dan's dick is as big as his memory is long, then holy shit, he's got the biggest dick in North America.
I wouldn't be divorced if my dick was that impressive. But
I got the stats here for that game, by the way.
Okay,
Texas,
please do.
31-24 loss. Orton had a good game, at least numerically. 22 out of 37, 60% percentage. I'm rounding up. 244 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 97.1. He was sacked 2 times for 19 yards. Not a bad game there, Dan.
Not horrible, but he wasn't good enough to get us over. I remember I was at the Carolina game that season in week 2, and at the end of the game, Marty Booker was wide open. That's the year Marty came back to us. It was wide open, would have been a touchdown to win the game on 4th down, and Kyle Orton threw the ball about 5 yards short of him.
I remember that.
Yeah, he was wide open, but he couldn't get the ball down the field. Again, I was at that game. So I'm just like, God damn it. Rex would have completed that pass. Like, why is he standing on the sidelines and this guy can't throw the ball 30 yards?
Yep. The factor says Dan has 30 years worth of pain stored up in his memory.
I do, man. 87 is the first year that I was really, really, really on board. I didn't get to see all the games, but I got to see a lot, man. Because back then, the Bears were a bandwagon team.
Yeah.
In terms of the networks and ratings, and they're winning. So I saw, even if they weren't on national television, I got a lot of Bears games then.
I would love to rebroadcast an old Bears game. You pick the game, I'll be the play-by-play announcer, and you do the analysis. You've seen these games so many times.
I don't think I'm good enough to do the analysis, but I would try.
Hey, we would break the rules on how analysis is done. You think I would be the traditional play-by-play? I'd be talking about, man, that guy sucks. He fucking. So anyway, let's get back to the free agency talk that we had. The next big name on this list of Bears free agents and whether to sign them or whether or not, this is a huge topic. And I saw an article that the New York Football Giants should sign James Daniels to play their guard position at a contract valued at $10 million. This was a New York Giants blogger for Fansided making that recommendation to the Giants. I'm talking, of course, about James Daniels, the Bears guard, who is now a free agent.
So here's somebody who could be looking at $10 million a year. It's a bloated market at guard. He's young.
Turns 25 in September.
This goes to Ryan Poles' view and vision for this offensive line, right? Like you and I, we talked to him. He did not see that nasty when he watched this team. Does he see James Daniels as somebody capable of that? There's that great clip from the Raiders game, right? Where Daniels carried a guy and threw him on the ground. I don't know what Ryan Poles thinks of Daniels. We don't know what he thinks of Cody Whitehair and Sam Mustipher either. Like this whole offensive line, you could bring all 5 guys back at the positions they ended the season at with some competition, or you can have a total influx. I lean more to the latter because this is Ryan Poles' position, and he's been open about starting with the offensive line. So I don't know if they will see enough from Daniels to warrant the kind of money that Daniels might get.
I put down re-signed.
Yeah. I was
torn.
Some of these guys.
I had him at hits the market until 10 minutes ago.
What do you guys think about James? Let me start with you, Tooch. We haven't heard from you in a while, and PJ is saying, what the hell happened to Tooch? He's right here.
I was listening to Dan's photographic memory, and I couldn't speak.
Yeah, you and I, and half the people in the chat room are in awe of how he can recall these games. Yep. It's amazing. But what do you think about bringing James Daniels back? Drafted out of Iowa. I think he was 19 years old when he was drafted. A lot of people in the league consider him an ascending offensive lineman. And they should consider him that way because of his age and the fact that he has played better and better every year. What do you think? Should the Bears bring him back?
Well, I think you can find guards anywhere, to be honest. I mean, do I like James Daniels? He's, an Iowa Hawkeye. I love my Hawkeyes. But I mean, Ryan Poles, I just have a feeling who was saying he didn't see that nasty. So, I mean, maybe Ryan Poles, I get the feeling, seems like the type of guy, being a former offensive lineman, who will want to put his own stamp on the offensive line by drafting guys that he likes, whether they fit his grading system as, a future top offensive lineman, and maybe a guy who has a nasty streak, and I think if you're going to take the next step, and I'll talk about this later, because I think there's some keys out there that will tell you where the Bears are and what a lot of outsiders think of where the Bears are as well. But I think this is kind of one of those years next year where you're kind of like, let's just, we can draft a rookie and put him in there and get salary cap room for other ascending players. Maybe they draft free agents who are youngers, that are possibly ascending that fit within the budget. Because and we're talking Akeem Hicks and we were talking Allen Robinson, and neither of those guys, do I like both those guys? Sure, I love Akeem Hicks, but I mean, I don't think at his price he fits like what the Bears are trying to do as far as getting to the next opening of a playoff window.
What do you think, Dan Aguirre? Do you think that the Bears should pay $8 to $10 million? It's going to take $10 million. That's the going price. PJ asked, can we get him for $8 million? Yeah, you can get away with paying him $8 million a season, but you're going to have to guarantee that entire contract. Sign him for 8 years, $8 million, that's $40 million, and the guarantee is 80%, 90%, 100%. Then
for James Daniels?
For James Daniels, because that's the going price. Walk. You're saying let him walk.
Let him walk. If Ed O'Branovich knows more about football than I'll ever know, Big Ed has said that this guy can't play dead.
I disagree with Ed. I totally disagree with Ed.
Dan Hampton doesn't think he's any good either. Again, I'm not the expert that studies the tape and can tell you like every down he's done this or that. I'm not trying to reference another show either. I'm just cutting myself down because I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you, if you're asking me though, does it feel like this guy's worth $10 million a year? Ooh, no. I would move on.
I think you guys are being a little too harsh on James Daniels.
Don't forget, you said he was dumb.
I said, yeah. I said, yes. It is true. I did say that. I did say that. He was being interviewed by Mark Potash, and I wish I had the clip handy. I would play it again, but it was obvious that, holy shit, man, this guy is, you know what I believe happened there is he was fed so much information about how the media is going to get you to trick you, how the media is going to trick you into saying something negative about your coaching staff. Because Mark Potash was asking him questions about the coaching staff, and Daniels was saying, I see what you're trying to do there. I see what you're trying to do. And then his response just didn't make any sense. And so I tweeted that out saying, holy shit, get rid of James Daniels.
Yeah, they were trying to get him to make parallels between his college coach and Matt Nagy. And he pretended, he was like, what do you mean by winning? He's like, I don't know. Did we win in college? It felt like a John Fox answer.
It felt like a fucking dumbass John Fox, a drunken John Fox, who, by the way, has been known to have several drinks, Mr. John Fox. But yeah, I mean, I'm worried about that. I am not against allowing Daniels to walk, but I hate the idea of, again, another homegrown talent you let go away, and he is at 24 years old. He is going to be playing 10 to 25% better at the age of 25, 26, 27.
Well, Anthony Miller's gone too. It's another second round pick.
Yeah,
I mean, that guard though. I mean,
yeah, but see, I disagree with you, Tooch, on that. I think the interior of the offensive line in today's football is more important than the outside. Yeah. Now, those
but those guys are easy to find, though. You know.
Yeah, they're easier to find than those tackles. You're right, because the athleticism that takes to play the tackle position is a lot harder than a big guy. Now, again, kudos to Gene Chamberlain over at Sports Illustrated, who said that the Green Bay Packers, if Luke Getsy is going to install some of that offense approach to the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, all of their offensive linemen were all under 300 pounds, with the exception of two of them. And one guy was 315, 320, but he was 6'7" tall. So the weight had to go somewhere, right? So, what he was pointing out was that the offensive line for the Chicago Bears is going to go through a metamorphosis where you're going to have more agile, more fast moving offensive linemen. And you're almost, so the entire offensive line almost is going to change, because the Bears have had guys who are all that, like the guy who weighed the least was Sam Mustipher at 310, 315. And the only reason he weighed that much is because the Bears demanded that because of their offense. They needed more stout offensive linemen. With the Packers, because they have their offensive linemen running a lot, they wanted guys who were under 300 pounds. So that's going to be a whole new change going on with the Chicago Bears if they adapt that Green Bay Packer approach to the offensive line. And if that's the case, then I can see James Daniels leaving. Although, this was brought up in the Hogan Johns podcast. Remember that one block against Minnesota Vikings where James Daniels took his defender like 15 yards downfield and then just buried into the ground? Well, that's the kind of athleticism and nastiness that the Bears' current coaching staff really loves in offensive linemen. And so they may look at James Daniels and say, we've seen him do it on tape, so we know he can do it. Let's sign him and bank on the fact that he's young and we can get him to do it more consistently. We'll see. Dan, you're quiet. I know that means that you're fucking some woman.
No, I just I'd love for all this to come into fruition, but I think he and Whitehair both are just not very good.
And that's the thing about Whitehair, though. His contract makes it so difficult to move on from him. And Kevin Fishbane was saying, you know what? The Bears coaching staff really screwed Cody Whitehair. He was set to be the left guard of this team. And then in his rookie season, because of an injury to that stupid guy they drafted from Oregon, I forgot his name.
Hronis Grasu.
Yes.
They also signed Will Montgomery that year, who broke his leg in week 4.
And so they had to move Whitehair to center. And Kevin Fishbane says, man, that was just the death knell to Whitehair, because he's been bouncing left guard center. He hasn't been able to establish himself. And I agree with that. I really do think that when you bring in these young guys, it's just best to leave them at one position and learn.
Well, that's what they did to Kyle Long, too.
To who? Oh, Kyle Long. Yes. I totally agree. When they drafted him, they should have put him at left tackle immediately. You got the most fucking athletic offensive lineman ever drafted in the last 10 years. And you're going to put him at right guard? Put him in at left tackle.
Even if you do put him at right guard, you can't just move him to tackle the week of week 1 without any practice in camp at tackle.
Exactly.
Which is what they did starting the 15 season. And he was never the same again. Now, granted, he got hurt in Tampa, but he was never the same after they moved him out to right tackle.
Yep. Ryan Schlazenzer. No, I got that wrong. Ryan says they save $8 million by post-cutting Whitehair on June 1st. That is true, but the problem with that, Ryan, is that it creates dead money. And so I don't have over the cap open in front of me, but the dead money will far exceed the $8 million. So it's like you're going to get $8 million back to play with, but the salary cap is still damaged for the next several years because of that cut. It's fucked up. I don't understand this whole shit, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I know, based on several reports by reputable NFL reporters, that the cutting of Cody Whitehair is not as black and white as what you see in some of these websites. All right, the last guy that I want to talk about in terms of free agents that Ryan Poles has to make a decision on is Bilal Nichols. And so again, this is Kevin Fishbane and Adam Johns talking on the Hogan Johns podcast about whether Ryan Poles should re-sign Bilal Nichols.
I was a little surprised that he didn't get re-signed last September. I thought you could get him for a discount. You could pat yourself on the back for finding a guy from Delaware in the 5th round who does everything you want on the field and off the field. And then he had a rough first half. I mean, he wasn't productive and he was hurt and he was frustrated. And then the last 6 games, he played really well. Not great, but I think he played well enough. The thing about that position, Johnsies, there's a lot of money that's going to get thrown around at defensive line. It's just, are the Bears willing to give him, and I think he's very versatile too, so I think you can find a way for him to fit in this defense. I just don't know if they'll be willing to pay him. Now, he's young, and again, he's an incredibly hard worker. He's the type of guy you want to have on your roster, but he's not the type of guy you need to have on your roster either. So I waver here. I think you have conversations, but you set a number, and you're probably not going to want to go over it.
I put down hits the market for my prediction, but I almost want to rephrase it to like test the market.
What do you think about Bilal Nichols, guys? John, I'll start with you this time. You think that the Chicago Bears should re-sign Bilal Nichols and see if he can play that 3 tech, or, at the very least, be a part of that rotation of defensive linemen? Because we know, based on what Eberflus told us, that they do a rotation on defensive linemen throughout the game to keep those guys fresh. What do you think?
It depends on how much he's kind of looking for in free agency, how much because the Bears might get him at a lower number because he's kind of an unknown guy. I don't think he has much renown out there like other, like Akeem Hicks or other big players like that. So he's a young player too. Would I like to re-sign him? Sure. He's kind of an animal, man. The dude's very physical. But again, defensive tackles like guards or guys you could find in the draft, it depends on what his price is, I suppose, Aldo.
Well, let me get Dan's opinion before I share mine. Dan, what do you think about Bilal Nichols? You think he should come back to the Bears or go away?
Unfortunately, the first 3 guys I say are gone, and I love Akeem Hicks, but this guy, I'm bringing him back. I don't care. I'm working it out. He's young. He's our guy. And yes, I'm saying you got to bring Nichols back.
I agree with you. I am telling Bilal Nichols, as soon as I ink him to a new contract in 3 or 4 weeks, I'm telling him, go to the gym, start losing weight, because the Bears had you gain a bunch of weight. I want you to be as quick as fucking possible. I want you to look at Aaron Donald tape and just be as quick as fucking possible, because I want you to compete for this 3 tech job. I saw tape of you, Bilal Nichols, when you were fucking sacking the quarterback, forcing fumbles, intercepting the ball, and so forth. I think you can get back to that way in a consistent manner if you lose weight and become so fucking athletic that you're fucking competing for Tarzan movies. Go out there and get this shit done. We're going to give you a $3 million contract at about $9 million per year with 70% of it guaranteed, and let's go to work. PJ, by the way, says, Aldo, remember when Kramer emphasized having a strong interior offensive line? And absolutely I do. PJ, I am a big proponent of building the middle of the offensive line and then going out, because if you've got a speed pass rusher on the outside, it's still going to take him 2-3 seconds to get to the quarterback just because of the distance. Unless the offensive lineman just lays down and watches him go by, goes, ole. Nowadays, and this is Mike Mayock talking. Mike Mayock said, I have gone around the country and I've talked to quarterbacks, and they will tell you the most important thing that quarterbacks want is to be able to step up in the pocket. Well, what the fuck does that mean? That means you need a center and 2 guards who can block. This is a big argument I have with draft Dr. Phil and Shane. They thought that because offensive tackles are paid more, that they were more valuable. No, those were in the Lawrence Taylor days. You had bad offensive tackles, especially at the left tackle, then you were going to see Joe Theismann's leg get shattered to bits. Nowadays, because of the offenses are getting rid of the ball quickly, and if they can't, they just need that extra second to step up in the pocket and create something. You need a stronger interior offensive line. Now, it still necessitates you paying a lot for offensive tackles because those are athletic freaks. Those are 6'5", 6'6" guys who have nimble feet, but hell, we could have won a Super Bowl with Charles Leno at left tackle. That's the fucking truth. 2018. He played at a Pro Bowl level, and yet he was a 7th round draft pick. I'm not advocating for his play in 2019 or beyond, but at 2018, we were able to get to the Super Bowl with a 7th round left tackle because he was athletically gifted enough to be nimble enough to just stay in the way of a pass rushing outside linebacker and delay his approach towards the quarterback. You guys have any thoughts on this?
Leno's long gone, though. Let's.
But it's an example. I'm not advocating for Leno to return to the Bears. He just
I know. I agree with he did well that season, and everything was great for him. Man, he proposed on the field after we beat Green Bay. Like you said, Pro Bowl year. For whatever reason, he couldn't sustain that any farther beyond that season, unfortunately.
So. Those are the 4 top free agents. Now the Bears have a lot of other free agents to consider. And excuse me,
I'm worried about. I want to get if it's my GM, if it's my spot, if I'm the general manager, the 2 deals I want done so they don't hit the market. I want David Montgomery re-signed, and I want our linebacker number 58 re-signed before he even hits the market.
All right, so let's take David Montgomery first. David Montgomery is signed for this upcoming season, so he's going to play.
I want him to get an extension.
Okay. So running backs with his productivity are averaging anywhere between 8 to 11 million. So if he has a big season, as I anticipate he's going to have in 2022, he's going to demand about $11 million. Do you want to pay that much to a running back in today's NFL offensive world?
Yeah, well, hopefully you can re-sign him before he has that big year, and you have another 3 years tacked on to it. I want him back though, man, and he's our draft pick. I don't want this guy walking after his 4th year.
I'm with you. I'm willing if you are going.
Roquan too, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if you're going to have a commitment to the run game and say, all right, we want to sign this guy. We'll give him what he wants because we're committed to him as a major part of the offense. Then, yeah, $10 million a year for a 3-year contract with 60% guaranteed, to me, makes sense. What do you think, Tooch?
Well, boy,
expensive John Santucci.
Yeah, I love David Montgomery, man. I'm for re-signing the guy. He's just. He's a special. He does it in the passing game. He does it in the running game. And you need 2 guys. You're going to need Khalil Herbert. And our running back's easy to find, sure. But David Montgomery, he's the guy that moves the chains. And I agree with you about the guards being important. That's what quarterbacks want. They want, what's right in front of them protected so they can step up in the pocket. But what wins, Super Bowls is having, a cohesive offensive line, not just, you need all 5 to be good, if not great, on an offensive line. And that's, they've got young pieces to build with on that offensive line. The 2 young tackles, Borum could play guard too if they sign a left tackle in free agency. And there's, 1 or 2 out there that are young players that the Bears could sign. And as far as David Montgomery, I think I don't think you can extend him this year. I think he's going to be on a prove it. Just the Bears always do this kind of thing where they should, like Dan says, they should extend him, but they won't because they're gambling that he has a down year or gets injured or something like that, and they can get him cheaper. And that's kind of the situation they're in where they have to get guys that are cheaper just because the salary cap hell they're in.
Tony Moy says, I would rather pay receivers and tight ends, which brings up a really interesting question. I'm of the old school. I think Tooch is with me. We build from the offensive line. You pay those guys, and it almost doesn't matter who is catching these passes as long as they can get open just a bit and they've got a little stickum in their hands. They're going to catch passes, and you're going to have a good offense. But things have changed and you're getting rid of the ball so quickly. Should we consider that maybe it's best to focus on getting playmakers, guys who can catch a 4-yard pass and turn it into a 40-yard play because they're breaking tackles, because they have extraordinary speed, because they can do things like, you know, the old time greats. Tooch and I grew up watching guys like Gale Sayers. Although Tooch is a little too young to watch Gale Sayers, but he knows what Gale Sayers does. When he started watching football, there were still plenty of Gale Sayers highlights going on. We saw what those guys can do with the ball after the catch, and that's what today's NFL is primarily now. When Ed O'Bradovich complains that, oh, he didn't throw the ball over the first down marker, that's not today's NFL. Today is that you throw it to the guy, you complete the pass, and you then tell that guy, pick up the 5 yards that you need for the first down. That's the game that's being played, because what is happening, you're rushing 3 guys, sometimes 4, and everybody else is guarding the first down marker. And so it's so difficult to complete a pass past that first down marker. You've got to fucking be able to pick it up on 3rd and long. The majority of the time, you got to be able to pick it up before you get to the first down. You got to have playmakers to do that. Dan, any thoughts?
I still think David Montgomery is our best running back since Thomas Jones. I'm not trying to besmirch Matt Forte, but I think he's better than Matt Forte. And I say we have to work it out, man. We got to bring this guy back.
And the other thing about what you just said there, Dan, is because everything evolves, everything changes, right? So now you got the defenses going back with 7 to 8 guys back in coverage and so forth. So what's the best way to combat that? Fucking run the ball. Run the ball.
And this guy can run.
That's right. And what's brilliant about David Montgomery is that if it's a defensive back going up trying to tackle him, I feel sorry for the guy. He's going to punish him. He's going to fucking knock him in the face, knock him down, run over him, put his spikes up his balls, and just run over him and pick up the first down. So you make a good point.
Other than Justin Fields, to me, he's the best player. Fields is all on the guy we hope he's going to be, but the potential is just massive, it feels like. But right now, other than Fields, he's the best player we've got on offense, period.
Mm-hmm. All right. We've talked free agents. I want to get one more clip in. It's about a totally different subject, but I heard this from Dan Bernstein over at the Score Sports 670.
Oh, this is the thing about the loafing?
Yes. How'd you know that? Did I tell you about it?
No, I saw it on Twitter myself.
Oh, okay. So I didn't realize it was. Yeah, I've taken some time off from social media. Every once in a while, I just need to get away from it. And so the last few weekends, I've been off of it. But this is Dan Bernstein, 670 The Score. I love the guy, the way this guy enunciates his words. Holy fucking shit, man. Did he come out of the womb and enunciating his cries and his blah, blah, blahs? Anyways, Dan Bernstein has an issue with the metric system that the Bears are going to employ to account for if Bears players are loafing. They're going to be graded, and it's going to be discussed openly with the whole team whether they're loafing enough, loafing too much. And so this is just a portion of it. I grabbed 3 minutes of Dan Bernstein's rant about it. Let's listen to it, and we can talk about it in the other end.
The issue with this sort of high school grading of how hard you try at the pro level, my fundamental problem with this is what we always gloss over. What is the actual truth of the NFL and what Paul Brown calls the eternal verities, the eternal truths about this game, hustle and speed and the ability to bring force. You know what else is an eternal truth of football? Injuries. Guys are hurt all the time. Constantly, whether they're on an injury report or not, whether they tell you about it or not. The ultimate eternal truth is the physical and human toll caused by not being 100%, and they don't want to talk about it. But that's the real eternal truth. And if you're going to give a guy a loaf or you didn't try hard enough, you know what, coach? My leg hurts. I'm sorry. And I'm busting my ass out there because I'm hurt. And I can't tell you, I mean, the trainer says up or down. Well, you know what? I'm up because I got to put food on the table and I got to do the absolute best I can. And if you want to give me a loaf on that, I'm sorry. You want to put this slap dong ahead of me who's not hurt, who's going to play 100% and hustle and give you all that eyewash, you go ahead and do it. You want me out there at 80% doing everything I can do? How do you think Khalil Mack feels? Khalil Mack has been hurt almost the entire time he's been here, and still, every time doing what he can. And you're going to get in a meeting room, and you're going to stand up there and say, well, Khalil, look at this. You weren't going that hard. I'm in pain, coach. Sorry. You're going to put me up in that score. We're going to bench my ass. You go ahead and bench my ass. My back hurts. My legs hurt. I got degenerative conditions in my body. You're going to give me a damn loaf. It's the NFL. They're pros. It makes me crazy to say these are objective truths. My ass, they're objective truths. You can watch that film. Do you know, film, there is a story behind everything that happens in every play. There is a story behind why somebody was here or why somebody was there. And when you want to say, well, you didn't run on the field hard enough, I just got out of the blue tent. I got a concussion that I didn't want to tell you about. I didn't know which way was up. I didn't remember getting a text from my wife after the game and to give me a damn loaf. Stick it. It just, this kind of thing at this level makes me crazy. You want to add that as an element? I understand if you want to say, hey, we're going to make this a part of things. We're going to use this as an evaluative tool. But when this is fundamental, when you are so in the church of effort and this principle that guides everything you do, I don't know. Not at this level.
Oh my God. This guy's never played football. Never fucking played football. You know what? I agree with only 10% of what he said. The tape, somebody, filtration, the tape never lies. I would argue with him. The tape does lie sometimes, because sometimes you're evaluating a player who you don't know if his fucking dick is swollen because he was fucking all night, or he's got an ankle problem that hasn't been gone on the. So you can be judging and evaluating a player that you don't know if an injury was impairing him. The tape generally tells the truth, but there are some things that it leaves out. What I have a problem with is the fact that this guy, Dan Bernstein, believes that telling players you're fucking being lazy on the football field, that you're not running hard enough, is a bad thing. No, it's not, Dan. That's a good thing. You want all the players pointing at each other. Are you going 100%? If not, get off the field and bring in a guy who is lesser, but at least he's fresh and will at least run to the loose ball, will at least run to try to make a tackle, because you're not doing it because you're too fucking tired. So that's what Dan Bernstein doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that even if it's a great player like Khalil Mack, but if he's running half-ass after a ball carrier who's 5 yards in front of him, there's no way he's going to catch him. But maybe the backup player who has fresh legs could possibly catch him. That's what he doesn't understand. I mean, there's so much wrong with that fucking argument. And for him to get so incensed that the Bears coaches are going to use this high school system to grade these players on their loafness, there's nothing wrong with that. You got to use some metric. You got to hold players accountable. Do you fucking like it that Eddie Jackson didn't tackle somebody when he was down in game 1 of the season? Do you fucking like it that Jalen Johnson didn't tackle somebody who was down in game 17? Do you fucking like it in between? There was example after example of players not playing hard. And a lot of times it wasn't because they were tired. It was because they were disinterested, because they were uninspired, because they were just bad. And so that has to be held accountable, Dan Bernstein. And if you don't get it, then that proves to me that you don't know shit about sports. Now, we go on. Dan, you have anything to add? John, anything?
Yeah, I never understood by listening to that why he was so mad. And it was like he was taking exception to this personally. Maybe at some level he was accused of loafing or something. As Bear fans, like you pointed out, those 2 plays, and so did George McCaskey, if you recall, in that first press conference.
Absolutely.
About the safety not coming over or the corner later and touching the guy and allowing him to get up. And don't forget, in week 17 of 2013, that cost us with people looking at the ball, and the Packers picked it up and scored in a game that was winner in, if winners in, losers out. So there's so many instances over the years where the Bears have been, not properly coached. And I think that's why so many people still have this admiration for Lovey, is because his guys, and I don't personally give Urlacher enough credit, but that team, they, you had the peanut punch. That team maybe wasn't the best, but they had that hustle. And lastly, I will say, to Bernstein's point about being hurt, you can't tell me that Matt Eberflus isn't going to understand the impact of injuries and be able to assimilate that data.
Great point.
Like, he knows.
Yeah. Hey, you're fucking loafing out there. I know you got a broken leg, but I don't care. Come on, Dan Bernstein, you fucking idiot. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's going to know, like, man, look, he had a loaf, but we also know that we just wrapped his fucking ankle.
Exactly.
Like, he's going to be able to interpret that better than me or Dan Bernstein.
Mm-hmm. Yep. John, what do you think? I mean, I think Bernstein was just on a theatrical performance there to find something to rant about when he probably didn't believe it himself, because if he did, then he really is an idiot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Perhaps like this show, he just had to fill some time.
That's right.
No, I'm just kidding. No, Dan's exactly right. Eberflus is going to know who's hurt. Come on, I like the lift system.
Yeah, I like it. I like holding players accountable. I mean, we need that fucking attitude. Let's see what Christopher House says. It's all shit. Although I had no idea you're from Humboldt Park. After you said that, I could see the old school Latin King in you. Yeah. By the way, I almost got my ass kicked by a Latin King member. I wasn't in the Latin Kings. I was in a different gang. I won't name the name of the gang, but I was getting high with my friends, and we ran out of reefer, and there was a bunch of Latin Kings down in the corner. Dark night. You could just see them, like the silhouette by the street light. And people were saying, man, we should go over there. I know they sell reefer. I know they sell reefer and so forth. And so, fuck it, man, I'll go. So I went over there with $20 in my pocket and so forth. And when I got close, there was this guy who was like, he looked like, remember that big guy who was in the James Bond movie, the Goldfinger movie with the steel teeth? And he was also Jaws, yeah. And he's also in The Longest Yard. I broke his fucking neck. That guy. He's in a lot of movies. Big, tall guy.
Yeah, Richard
Kiel. Thank you. And so this guy is a member of the Lion Kings. He looks just like Richard Kiel, and he says to me, "Get the fuck out of here." And I go, "Yeah, but I got money." And he pushes me. Did you hear me? Get the fuck out of here. All righty. Get the fuck out of here. With my tail between my legs, I go back, and they weren't really receptive to somebody that didn't know buying reefer from them. So anyway, that's my Lion King story. All right, guys, I want to switch gears yet again, because last week, Jesus Christ, we're running out of time with Dan. Fuck, Dan. You gotta quit one of these jobs, man.
Told you, man, this fucking basketball season is killing me, man. But there is no game next Tuesday night.
All right. So what do you want to talk? You want to hold off Bill Cosby till next week and talk about the Super Bowl?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So let's talk Super Bowl. Bill Cosby, all three of us, John, Dan. Dan, have you watched all 4 episodes?
I have.
Okay. And myself, we watched all 4 episodes. We want to talk at length about it because it is a really it affects you. Anyone who watched Bill Cosby, grew up with Bill Cosby, like the 3 of us did, it really, really affected us. And so we want to give it enough time to talk about it at length. But in the last 30 minutes that we have Dan here, Dan wants to talk about Super Bowl memories, and I have a few. There's a few things that I remember, but I don't remember too much.
Just jump in, man, so we can play off of it.
Please go right ahead. Start us off.
You go ahead. You said you had some. I'm interested. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, one of the biggest Super Bowl memories that I have was that Cincinnati Bengals San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl, because I was so enamored with the 49ers offense and that West Coast offense. I really understood it. I said this before. I went out and bought the Bill Walsh coaching philosophy book and so forth. Really understood the 3, 5, 7-step drop for the quarterback, getting rid of the ball on time. You fade back 3 steps and then you plant and you throw. You don't fucking look around and so forth. No, everything is based on timing. And I was coaching a flag football team at the time, and I was trying to teach that philosophy to the flag football team, Humboldt Park, we played. And so we're trying to implement a lot of that Bill Walsh stuff. And so that Super Bowl game to me just crystallized so much of that Bill Walsh offense, and that winning play to John Taylor, the winning touchdown play, was exactly that. He took that drop back, I believe it was 5 steps, planted and threw to Taylor, and that was just a work of art for those of us who appreciate the game of football and the X's and O's and the plays and so forth. That was just such a work of art. And on the other hand, I had such an appreciation for the fact that the Bengals played so tough and were still in the game. I expected that game to be a blowout. I totally expected the 49ers to win by one of those. Back then, Super Bowl scores were generally 49-10, 38-14. You know, there weren't any close games, and that's one of the first Super Bowl games that was close. And so kudos to Kenny Anderson, their quarterback at the time.
No, that was Boomer.
Excuse me, Boomer Esiason. That to me, I was just going to say memorable, but I didn't remember the quarterback for the Bengals.
Kenny played in the first one against San Francisco at Super Bowl 16.
Right.
The 23 play that you're referencing, it's the Bengals dropped an interception the play before that would have clinched the game. And then the next play, Montana hit Taylor, but he threw a pick in the play before, but they dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just sickening. Man, I was so butthurt after the Bears lost the NFC Championship game. I'm still mad about the 88 title game, but we lost that game, and the only reason we lost is because Richard Dent was out. I mean, when Dent was there pressuring Montana in the regular season, we held them to like 9 or 10 points. We couldn't get any pressure on him in the title game, and he ate us a fucking live. And that's the big disparity, is the fact you got no pressure, and then you had immense pressure. When there was immense pressure, guess what? He couldn't even get a touchdown. But yeah, so we lose and getting that Super Bowl. I'm all for Cincinnati because, again, the title game the week before, and then they drop that fucking pick, and then he throws a touchdown. I'm sick. Fucking sick.
Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you respond to what Jeremy has put up on the chat room? We lost the NFC Championship to those fucking Niners. I remember that loss. I was 8 years old and I cried like a little bitch. Jeremy, you're with us, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was distracted.
Yeah, I was talking about how you were rooting for San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I was like, fuck that. I was so mad and hurt over the title game. I was rooting for Cincinnati.
Gotcha.
And Cincinnati had 2 things go against them as well. Their guy Stanley Wilson went AWOL and like fucking lost his mind before the game and wasn't there. And Tim Krumrie, their best defensive player, broke his leg in the first quarter.
Yeah. This is the game I was going to mention too, as standing out as one of my favorite Super Bowl memories too. Now the 49ers beating the Bears, that was the 28-3 game.
Yes,
right?
It was horrible.
Oh,
I was at that game.
You were there?
I was at the game. And man, I had such high hopes. I was like, man, they're coming in here, and it's gonna be. It's gonna be so cold. The West Coast offense, is not gonna do anything. Bears defense is gonna, and it was 28-3 pounding. It was so cold there, Aldo. I must have had like 4 layers of clothing. I was still froze my ass off. This is the game I was telling you about where the hot chocolate was poured out, and it was. There was no heat at all poured out at the vendors. I ordering hot chocolate. I was like, by the time it got into my glass, it was like chocolate milk instead of hot chocolate. But yeah, the Super Bowl. I went back to college that year and watched the Super Bowl up in my dorm room with a bunch of guys, and remembering the Tim Krumrie, where his broken leg just flopped around. It was really gross, and I was surprised too. The Bengals were so competitive in that game, like you said, that we expected the 49ers to blow them out, with that great offense, and the Bengals were not really competitive. But yeah, that was one of the Super Bowls I was going to mention as well.
What do you got, Dan, on your list?
Who were you throwing it to, me or to it?
Dan.
I didn't like 23. Again, I was so butthurt over the Bears losing. I didn't like that game. It's the same thing with Super Bowl 45 when we lost to the Packers. I hated that fucking Super Bowl with Green Bay and Pittsburgh. Hated every second of it. Every snap I thought we should have been there, and I was green with envy.
Mm-hmm.
But to start with Super Bowls that I loved, how about the Green Bay Packers losing to the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 30? It was fucking incredible because Elway had won. If you recall, the year before they lost at home and they were 14-2 and lost to the Jaguars at Mile High.
Mm-hmm.
And Elway's kid said that's the only time they ever saw their dad cry, and he contemplated retirement. And he got there the next season as a wild card, and they had to beat Jacksonville in the first round, got revenge there. They had to go to Arrowhead in the second round. They beat Kansas City, and then they had to go to Pittsburgh for the AFC Championship game. They're underdogs in all of these games, essentially, and they win. They go to the Super Bowl. They're like 12-point underdogs. Everyone thinks Green Bay is going to beat them in a rout. Even Elway's parents said, well, his mom specifically said, oh, no, we have to go back to another Super Bowl. Because they remembered those three losses, 21 and 22 and 24. And 22, they were up 10-0, and they were favorites in that game to beat Washington, who I was, again, rooting for Denver so strongly because they had beaten the Bears in the playoffs, the Redskins. So to bring it back, though, all that, and then it came down to the one last play on fourth down, and Favre threw over the middle to the alleged babysitter fucker Mark Chmura, and Catino Mobley's cousin John Mobley knocked down, and you see Elway's dad in the booth celebrating his son has finally done it. And just that moment, they carried Elway off the field. For that one day, I was a Bronco, man, because they beat that fucking Packers team, whom I absolutely hated. Hated everybody on that team. Man, the only person probably I didn't hate, I don't even know if BB was on the second team. I didn't hate Don BB because he'd gone through those losses with Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And obviously I didn't hate Jim McMahon. Both of them were on the 96 team. I don't know if BB was there still in 97. McMahon wasn't. He had retired. He said he was so fucking bored being the backup. And so anyway, the Green Bay game to me and Denver, that's where I start of just absolute adulation to see the Packers lose.
Yeah, it's funny about my relationship with the Packers has never been like most Bears fan. It hasn't been until the last 10, 15 years. I'm 62 years old. That I really grown a dislike for the Packers, and it has to do with Favre and Rodgers and the fact that they got so.
Well, that was Favre, Aldo. You're rooting for Favre in that game? Tell me you weren't rooting.
No, absolutely not, absolutely not. But I didn't have that, fiery feeling against the Packers until later in my life when it grew. As a kid growing up, I hated the Packers because Forrest Gregg, was cheap shotting the Bears, and there was I read about the history of the Packers and the Bears, but it really didn't come into fruition until Favre and Rodgers and the consecutive, the fact that this franchise got these two Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back, and the Bears have never had. That's when it really crystallized for me. I always hated the Packers, but it didn't really crystallize for me, my hatred for them, until the whole double quarterback Hall of Fame thing happened. So when I watched that Elway Favre game, I still didn't hate the Packers like I do now. But I understand what you're saying, and I applaud fans. I think that really appreciated the rivalry. Guys like you, you don't live in Chicago, Dan, and so the fact that you gravitated towards that rivalry in a stronger way than I did, I applaud you more than.
Charles Martin cemented that.
Yeah. That is true. Forrest Gregg was a bum. I hate to say it because the guy's in his grave and stuff, Hall of Fame players.
So is Charles Martin, but fuck both of them.
Yeah, exactly. These guys behaved in a criminal manner. They couldn't play the game fair and square. Forrest Gregg was telling his players to purposely injure Chicago Bears players. Matt Suey's dragged out of bounds and pushed over the bench. You know, they were being coached that way by Forrest Gregg, and that's no way for any coach and any era of football to coach.
You mentioned Suey. There was the play. What's the guy's name? He's a wide receiver now. No. Yeah, he was a safety. His dad was a safety in Green Bay. He takes off running full speed. There was talks of the Bears getting this guy a few years ago. He was in Miami and with the Texans. But the dude took off, his dad took off running full speed, and Suey was standing there because the play was over, the whistle had blown, and he was just standing there, you know, flat-footed, and the guy came and hit him running full speed and collided with Matt when he wasn't even ready for it and was flat-footed. Mm-hmm. It was so fucking dirty, if you know the play I'm talking about.
Yep,
Again, that was in 85.
I do remember that. Foster Cover says, look this up. Hallis saved the Packers and told them to hire Lombardi. It goes beyond that, Foster. Hallis gave the Packers a loan because they weren't able to meet their payroll and they were ready to leave the league. And it was Hallis, I think that he gave them the loan, or he spoke on behalf of the Packers for the league to give them a loan. And if it wasn't for George Hallis, that small market team from Green Bay would not still be in the NFL. He saved that organization. He saved that franchise. That doesn't mean shit other than he was wrong to do it. So that way we wouldn't have been fucking haunted by those Hicks. Anyways, what else you got, Dan? Let me add one real quick one here.
Please.
The Rams 23, the Titans 16.
Oh, yeah.
That to me was like, this is what the Super Bowl should be.
Yeah, the Rams were winning.
Yes.
16-0, I think.
I think you're right.
Then the Titans came back and tied it. Mm-hmm. And there's that famous image on the sidelines of Jeff Fisher, like saying, they think this fucking game is over. They think it's done. They think we're done. Mm-hmm. And he was rallying and they came all the way back. And then as soon as they did, they've come back. They were down, like I said, 16. It's 16-0 now. It's tied. First fucking play. They've come back the whole second half. And what happens? The first goddamn play, Kurt Warner goes deep to Isaac Bruce. You've taken the whole second half to come back. Touchdown Rams.
Outstanding. And the way the game concludes,
and McNair takes them right back down the field and says, "Fuck your touchdown."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they run out of time. If they don't run out of time, there's no way that game doesn't go to overtime. And even furthermore, Mike Jones, the linebacker, basically is beaten because of the scheme. Has to make an incredible effort to tackle. Was it like Isaac Bird, maybe? Anyway, it was somebody that got tackled like at the half-yard line for the game to end. Just an incredible game. And the fact that we know what happened to Steve McNair right afterwards, a couple years later too, it's just tragic. The guy was so great.
Oh, he really was. He the kind of guy I would have loved to have seen him wearing a Bears uniform. And I'll add to that game, what was it? 2 years beforehand, 2 years later, Patriots 20, Rams 17. Another great game that I saw. There was a couple of years, 2 or 3 years where I went to Las Vegas. The hotels would have a huge space where everybody could go drink and eat for fucking free, but they had these betting booths throughout this huge ballroom. And we were surrounded by big screen TV. So we everywhere you sat, you had a great view of the TV, big ass 30-foot projection TVs. And below them were these betting booths. And so you would go and make a bet, whether there's a prop bet, a bet on the game and so forth. And so you're there with a bunch of drunken guys and there's pretty girls serving drinks and stuff. I had the time of my life and the game was outstanding. That Patriots 20-17 game. Wasn't that the first Super Bowl that Tom Brady won or one of the
It was. That was also the last time that We got individual player introductions because the Patriots came out as a team.
Oh, that's right.
We're cheating as a team, so we're coming out all as one.
That's
I
right.
hate that fucking dynasty. I hate everybody on those teams. I can't stand the Patriots. I hate Tom Brady. I'm glad he's gone. New England cheated in that game too. They were cheating. They were fucking videotaping the Rams practices.
Yeah,
that's where all this shit started. They did that to the Eagles. They did it to Carolina. They did that to the Rams.
Just as a quick aside, do you think that Tom Brady wanted to play outside of New England so that he could be separated from all those cheating accusations and facts? Some of them have been proven. The deflate thing is still controversial, but there is obvious things that Bill Belichick did that he cheated. Do you think that Tom Brady wanted to leave New England so that he could be remembered as the quarterback who wasn't always associated with an organization that had cheated repeatedly?
That's certainly a good point. And if that's what he wanted, he definitely succeeded.
He did. All right, Dan, give us another game because we know we've got about 15 minutes with you.
Yeah, I know. I could talk about this shit all night too.
Oh.
Nobody else cares about the old games. Even the ones like before I was born excite me, like one that was always criticized by even like Steve Sable and stuff that I enjoyed immensely was Super Bowl V.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys and the Baltimore Colts. The Colts were coming off of that epic loss to the Jets. It's the first year of the merger. So it's the first year, no AFL.
Mm-hmm.
And the Colts lost that game to Joe Namath 2 years before. And they've beaten the Raiders in the AFC Championship game, and here they are. They're in the Super Bowl again, and they've got Dallas, a team that has epically lost these close games like the Ice Bowl and the game where Don Meredith got picked off at the end, the 66 title game, and then they kept running into Paul Warfield when he was with the Browns. So they had all these teams that was viewed as, they're championship ready, and then they've lost like 4 or 5 title, postseason games in a row, and they finally made it. So they're finally in the Super Bowl against the team that had this epic fucking collapse 2 years ago. And there's so much tension. The whole game is tight. But the Colts win the game with like 7 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas has like 4 or 5 turnovers. It's just, but the effort is there, and the tension between both teams is there the whole game. Both teams want it. And it's just one of those cliches you hate to see a team lose. And when they do lose, infamous images from God, what was the big stud player from the Cowboys in that era?
The tight end you're talking about?
No, on defense. Bob Lilly.
Bob Lilly, yeah.
Bob Lilly throws his helmet almost as high as the stands in the Orange Bowl. He's so disgusted that they lost.
Mm-hmm.
So many weird things happened. Like there was a play, Unitas got hurt. Mm-hmm. In Super Bowl III. Earl Morrall was the the NFL MVP that year, mm-hmm. because Unitas was out the whole year essentially. But when we go to the Super Bowl V, Johnny's the starter again, but he gets hurt. So they've brought Earl in to redeem himself from the loss 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he does, but you have this weird play like this. This just symbolizes the Super Bowl. He throws a play. They do it like a botched flea flicker. They always ran this play where the halfback would go laterally about 4 yards and then throw it back to the quarterback, and then he would throw and hit the tight end in the seam. Mm-hmm. So they've run this play hundreds of times under Don Shula, and here it is again. And Dallas is ready for it. So he throws the ball to Mackey, but Mackey can't get to it. The defender's in the way. So the running back, what was his name? I'll come back to that.
Okay.
But the running back catches it instead, and he's running, and then he fumbles, and it goes out of bounds, and it's a touchback. Just like everything that could go wrong in this game went wrong, like just from both sides. But again, it was just like everyone's tense from the start of the game. Ends up being 16-13 with the rookie Jim O'Brien kicking the field goal to win it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that game immensely, and it's on YouTube. Kurt Gowdy's announcing it, so it's kind of boring if there's
you're not a big Gowdy fan, right?
It just doesn't sell the story, man. He never tells you what's really happening. Like if you go back and you listen to, I know he's a Giant, so, but if you go back and listen to Pat Summerall, like in, we were mentioning the 88 title game with Tooch a minute ago, when the broadcast comes on, you know, the first thing he says, you know, we're live at Sold Out Soldier Field, and the winner of this game will play Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. Like, he's constantly telling you the story, and it's built up. You have this package, the package the whole season, you know, for both teams, and now you don't ever get that. And like Joe Buck doesn't sell that. Joe Buck's not like, today is the NFC Championship game. The winner is going to the Super Bowl. Like Pat was selling that with like intensity. And so did Dick Enberg. Like, the story, man, you don't even have to be a football fan. You're going to know what's up because they're going to sell it for you.
True.
And these announcers don't do that anymore. Even if they do, there's not a package before the game where it's just like, you know, like a 4-minute package, the NFC Championship, and they're just selling the game. They don't do that. It's casual. They'll be playing some random hip-hop music and, welcome to the game today. It's the title game, and I'm Joe Buck, and this is Troy Aikman, and we're going to talk about nothing. And here's Erin Andrews, and oh, isn't she cute? Yeah, she took her job. She got her job just because of her looks. She has no substance whatsoever. Hey, let's kick the ball off. Poor Pam Oliver lost her gig because she wasn't a blonde Barbie.
I love Pam Oliver, and she
lost her gig because she's not a blonde Barbie.
I agree.
She was their number one sideline reporter until Erin Andrews come running over from ESPN.
Yep. That's a story for another show where we talk about stuff like that, because that, you know, could take 2 hours. We have plenty of examples to show that there has been, you know, bias, let's say, towards certain type of reporters, especially the sideline reporters. But I wanted to play for you Kurt Gowdy's call on the Immaculate Reception. This is it.
Last chance for the Steelers. Bradshaw trying to get away. And his pass is broken up by Tatum. Tipped off. Franco Harris has it. And he's over. What? Franco Harris. Grab the ball on a deflection. 5 seconds to go.
So, you know, so when you're down on Kurt Gowdy not selling the game, I just, you know, that was
go back and watch Super Bowl III.
I will, because I think you sent it to me. So I will definitely do that.
You watch Super Bowl III, he should be pounding the drum that this young, cocky, overpaid, what everyone perceived as overpaid quarterback with his white fucking shoes and his big ass mouth, whom I love, Joe Namath, is 18-point underdogs. And not only has he said, we're going to win, I fucking guarantee it, which had never happened before. And the AFL was a league that had never beaten the NFL before and was viewed as years away from the NFL. And they're 18-point underdogs. And not only are they fucking doing it, and they're smashing, and they're the AFL announced team. That NBC was the AFL league. The CBS was the NFL league. So it's on their channel. Their team is winning. And Joe Namath, he's not even talking about this kind of shit. Like, he should be saying, this is going to be the biggest upset in sports history. Hey, Aldo, what do you think's the ramifications of such a win? Could this lead to a league merger? It obviously did. You didn't hear any of these kind of conversations.
And like, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll just have a quick thought.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to say that, you know, that game was broadcast, I believe, by CBS and NBC.
No, that was Super Bowl I.
Okay, so that was.
And then Super Bowl II was on CBS. III was on NBC.
Okay, so that's when they started the rotation. All right. So back then, it was just broadcasting was just so different. Like, one of the announcers that I love a lot is Ray Scott, he did Super Bowl I. He announced that, and his was a very low key. I mean, you would hear the crowd noise much, much more than his play-by-play. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed his deep baritone voice. Wasn't
he a Packer announcer on radio?
I don't know that for sure.
I think he was. I mean, that's why you like him. Underneath it all, you're a Packers fan.
Okay, that explains why you don't like Ray Scott.
Anyway. I don't like. I thought Ray, his color guy was Pat Summerall, and they had true. Pat doing the color. Like, to me, you compare Ray to Pat, Pat's 100-1 over Ray.
I
At
don't-
the
I don't know.
play-by-play, Pat could do the color too, but I think Pat was Mr. Play-by-play to me.
Yeah, I'd like to debate you that on a future show where we can have some clips available and analyze that. Let's do that as one of our off-season shows.
Yeah, he did 6 Super. Well, this is an off-season show, but he did Super Bowl 6
But we
and
didn't
Super Bowl
prepare
8.
for it. We didn't prepare for that. But yeah, you're right. So
Interestingly, Super Bowl 4 was with Jack Buck and Pat. Jack was the play-by-play guy. And I like Jack Buck. Jack Buck did baseball really well.
Oh, I love this voice. You know what?
Yeah.
You know, Joe Buck isn't that big of an asshole. He is an asshole. Anyway, give us another game before you cut out of here.
I wanted to tell you, and I know Toocher's like, God damn, do I get to talk? I'm sorry, man. But you'll be getting rid of me in a second, so you have lots of mic time.
I'm good. You're good, Danny.
I'd like to hear his thoughts too, though. I want to stay a couple minutes later so I can listen to him. But just a couple of games I thought that were dreadful. Maybe you all would see them differently, but the couple of Super Bowls, I just thought, God, these are some of the worst games I've ever seen. I start out with from a couple of years ago, that Rams-Patriots game, Super Bowl 53, just awful. The Ravens and Giants, Super Bowl 35, fucking terrible. I think the final's 35-7, and Giants only scored on a kickoff return. And then as soon as they did, the Ravens returned their kickoff for a touchdown. And Ray Lewis got MVP for having 2 tackles and just his name being Ray Lewis. Because the fans got to vote that year, which is just complete and utter bullshit.
Let's try Dilfer, right? Quarterback.
Washington, Denver Super Bowl 22. Just so boring, man. It's like it starts out 10-0. I want Elway to win because Washington beat us. And I get the historic sense of it because Doug Williams is the first black quarterback. That's not lost on me, but at 7 it was because I just wanted the team that beat my team to get their asses kicked. And when it's 10-0 and you haven't even had time to open your beer yet, and the rest of the game is, Washington scores 35 in the second quarter, and then the second half is just listless and dead. Ends up being 42-10, just an awful game. And then the Broncos 49er game, 24. Awful. I guess you were going for San Francisco, but I was going for Denver. It was 55-10. Horrible. I was rooting for Broncos again. And I'll give you one more. The 27 in Pasadena, Michael Jackson. It was the last game I watched with my dad before he died, was Super Bowl 27, 52-17, Dallas.
Yeah, there was a string of Super Bowl games there where you thought this whole Super Bowl thing isn't working, man. It's like the conference championship games were always much more entertaining to watch. You get to the Super Bowl and you expect this great clash of conference champions, and it just never happened. And then finally, around the turn of the century, is when all of a sudden we started to get some really good games, and it happened year after year after year, and the tide changed. Yep.
It was so bad. It was so bad that people would just be like, do we want to watch the Super Bowl? It's just going to be another blowout. I remember that being tossed around at that time. It's just going to be another blowout.
Right. Right. Tooch, you got a Super Bowl game that you'd like to share with us so that Dan can comment on it?
Yeah, I mean the Buffalo, when they came all the way back and they missed the field goal, that stands out in my memory. As just being it left such an impression on me that it could come down to that, and then just so much agony of defeat.
It's like Shakespeare.
Yeah, it really
exactly.
is.
And I think the Giants were a wild card that year. And the Bills were like
no. They were the second seed.
Okay, all right. The Bills were like 15-1 that year, or 14-2 or something.
Yeah, they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. They beat the Raiders in the title game like 51-3. And the Giants beat us in the second round, their first playoff game. And then they go and upset San Francisco at Candlestick, which, again, you would have thought I would have been like, fucking, I'm going for Buffalo. If I'd have known now, I would have been going for Buffalo. And the fact that the Giants beat us, you would have thought, I'd be going for the Buffalo. But I hated San Francisco so much. Again, I watched this with my dad. My dad hated Joe Montana and those 49er teams too. When Matt Barr made that field goal to knock them out of the fucking going to 3 straight Super Bowls, it was so Like, it was just a foregone conclusion that the 49ers are going.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Giants upset them, he goes, God damn it. Like, we're going to the video store. We're going to rent as many movies as you want. You don't have to go to school tomorrow. We were both so happy
I love it.
that the Giants
Nice.
beat San Francisco. And again, so in the Super Bowl, I was going for the Giants, and I shouldn't have. My boss, who owns this cluster of stations, was at the game. I didn't know him, obviously, then, but like, he can prove it that he was there. He's got the ticket and stuff still. So, I mean, just the fact he was there with like Whitney Houston and the best national anthem ever, and the country's so united because we're at war, and like, war was like, now we're about to go to another fucking war. Thank you, Putin. But you know, it's just like the war was like a big deal then. You know, it wasn't like we were always at war. We hadn't been at war since Vietnam. You know, Vietnam's kind of like our Buster Douglas. You know, you're not really invincible, America. But we got up off the mat though, and there we are. We're so united as a country.
Mm-hmm.
George Bush's approval rating is like 92% or something that year.
Yeah.
And the country's so united, so much red, white, and blue, and Whitney Houston. It's just perfect. Like, I wanted the Bears there so much. And then, you know, the Buffalo, they drive down the field, like Tooch said, and it's 19-17. And by this time of the game, the Giants' whole defensive scheme, but with Belichick, is to basically rush 2. And they've got 9 back. And like, Andre Reed caught 6 passes, I think, in the first quarter, and was blanketed the rest of the game, and said he had never been hit so hard. And just the whole thing was to hit their receivers. And it befuddled Buffalo. So by this time, they can't throw it, they can't run it, and it's just all Jim Kelly running down the field, a slow white guy running down the field, or Thurman Thomas. And yes, somehow they get in field goal range, and everyone on the sidelines is holding hands, the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's together. I mean, even the fucking ball boy, everyone's holding hands, grown men, the whole town, everything is together for this kick. And they all love the kicker, Scott Norwood. He's popular. He's a great dude, and he misses. It's a tragedy, man. It's a Greek tragedy. It truly is. Like I said, they had a thing in Buffalo after the game where the team came back from Tampa, and he was ashamed. Scott Norwood didn't even want to show his face.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the way we acted toward Cody Parkey, which I think was warranted, by the way, but we would have been like, kill him. But the Buffalo fans are cheering for him to the point where they bring him out on stage and they all give him a standing ovation. And he cries because he wanted to kick it. He wanted it so much, and he's sorry he fucked up, and, you know, but that's how classy their fans were, man. And they deserved it. They fucking deserved it. They should have won it. But if you go back and you watch that, Al Michaels or maybe Frank Gifford, one of them tell you before the kick, oh man, Norwood is a lifetime like 3 of 9 from this distance on grass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the part where he has struggled on a grass field from over 47, 48 yards. That's like the one area of his game where he had a hole in it. And they asked him to do something that he's not good at. And if you go back to Chris Berman in the pregame from ESPN on whatever their pregame was called back then, he's saying that it's interesting to him that side of the field, and this was in the pregame, not in the postgame. In the pregame, he says, it's interesting to me watching Scott Norwood is hooking everything from this side of the field.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's the side of the field he had to kick on. And Berman said it in the pregame.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's like the idea was because he went wide right,
Mm-hmm.
and he was hooking everything to the left in the pregame, I think. So he like tried to overcorrect it, you know, because he was going the other way. And it got in his head and he missed the kick, man. It's just so like, if they'd have made that kick, who's to say they don't win 2 or 3 or 4?
Oh yeah, I agree with you on that. You know, a loss like that just has a echoing effect. You know, it just makes. You know, we've all, anyone that's played sports know that when one thing bad happens to you, it can affect you. You know, consciously, subconsciously, whatever. for years to come. And so I keep recommending to people this movie called Buffalo 66, where it is about a family, a dysfunctional family. And this guy's family, he goes over to his mom and dad's house every Sunday, and every Sunday after dinner, they pop on a VHS tape of that Super Bowl game where he misses that field goal, where Norwood misses that field goal. But the thing is that they don't remember that this is an old game. They keep reliving that Super Bowl loss over and over and over again. They cry and they commiserate and they swear and stuff. It's a bizarre movie. I forgot the name of the actor, but Christina Ricci, who you guys know, Yellow Birds and so forth, back in her youth, she's in the movie. She looks so fucking good in this movie. If you ever run into it, and I know, Dan, you love watching these old movies, so Buffalo 66, I believe, is the title. It's a bizarre film.
Actor's name is Vincent Gallo, isn't
there
it?
You go. Tooch to the rescue. Vincent Gallo.
Two more things before I go, please. With just give Scott Norwood some credit. The next year, AFC Championship game, Rich Stadium, they're expected to blow Denver out. Mm-hmm. And Elway gets hurt. It's actually Gary Kubiak against Jim Kelly at the late stages of that game. But it's something like 10-10 or 10-7, whatever. It's tied late. And with basically no time in regulation, comes down to Norwood, and he makes it for them to go back to go to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So he overcome that kick in a certain sense. He did kick them into Super Bowl 26. But they go to 26, and then you got that fucking assistant coach mocking the Redskins and the Hogs and all that weird shit, and it just like inspired Washington. And Buffalo was much better than that Redskin team, but somehow, Washington blows them out, and then Dallas opens a fucking can, whatever cliche, 52-17, and then but the one I want to mention, the last one, 28. People may forget, they already lost 4 games. Fuck Buffalo. But the last Super Bowl that they were in, 28, they actually led 13-6 in the third quarter, and they were about to score again. They were about to go up 20-6. And you're talking about the defending champions now in Dallas. You're Buffalo. You've lost 3 games. If you score there and you're up 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, maybe you get your win finally. But what happened? Thurman Thomas fumbled. It was picked up by James Washington. He ran it all the way back for a touchdown. They tied the game 13-all. Buffalo doesn't score another point, and they lose 30-13.
Oh, wow.
It's 13-6 Buffalo. Think that in mind. They're about to score, and James Washington takes it all the way back to the house. They don't score another point.
Man.
I mean, just the fickle nature of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
In sports, it's so unkind,
mm-hmm.
And you can sense it, man. You watch that Buffalo game when things went all their way against Warren Moon with the Oilers, when they're down, Houston's up 38-3, I think. You just know it when you're watching the game, and like Frank Reich is playing, not even Jim Kelly. You can just feel it, man. They're gonna come back. It just like momentum. You just at home, you know it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And Houston had to have known it too, and they couldn't stop it. It's amazing. And by that time, they had Steve Christie as their field goal kicker.
Good old Steve Christie. Yeah, I remember the name.
He was from Tampa initially, and he went to Buffalo on what they used to call Plan B.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way free agency went. Before all in all, like out and out free agency, which didn't start till 93, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we got to keep Walter his whole career. They didn't really have free agency yet.
Your memory just astounds me.
Holy shit, dude.
I never get anybody to talk about these games, or anyone that gives a fuck, or just cares, at all. Last one, and I really got to go. And I know it's a game you and I have talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
And again, San Diego ended up holding them off, but the Kellen Winslow game against Miami, they have a 24-0 lead, and we were talking about Lovey earlier, bringing it full circle. Could you bench Kyle Orton and bench Rex Grossman and put in Brian Greasy? Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what Shula did. He said, fuck it, we're faltering. He takes Woodley out, brings in Don Strock, and suddenly the 24-0 deficit is like a 38-31 Miami lead. And Kellen Winslow Sr. caught like 12 passes. He blocked an extra point. I think he blocked a field goal. And somehow, some way, both teams are missing kicks in overtime, almost goes to double overtime because the heat and the humidity. And finally, Rolf Benerschka makes the field goal to win San Diego 41 and the Dolphins 38. But it was 24-0 San Diego in the first quarter, mind you.
Ralph Benerschka, who went on to host Wheel of Fortune for a couple of seasons, and the rumor was that he was fucking Merv Griffin, the creator and executive producer of Wheel of Fortune, which is how he got the job. Did you know that, Dan?
I did not. I thought you were going to say he fucked Vanna. I was going to be like, wow, okay.
No,
I didn't know he was.
I did too.
But
fucked Pat Sajak. Or whatever.
But I did read that Pat Sajak had sex with Vanna White. They had a relationship for several months, which to me kind of makes sense. They've been working together for 30 years, and so I would think that during 30 years they would have had a little tryst, But
if I work with a lady 30 years and she doesn't let me hit it, there's got to be something wrong with me. At some point, man, you got to have a couple of looks at each other, right?
That's what I told my wife, and she has denied me sex since 10 years ago.
Unfortunately, I have to leave this great conversation because I got to get to my job, and I've got to work there midnight to 4 p.m. So,
all right. Well, we really, really love the fact that you were able to squeeze away from your other duties for this, and we will be back here next week. Although you've got a game, you have no game next week, right, Dan?
No, next week I can do a full fucking show. Thank God.
All righty. Well, we'll be prepared with lots of good stuff for you, Dan. And you and I will be texting each other and talking with each other during the week. Goodbye, buddy.
All right. Bye, Tooch.
Bye, Danny. Bye-bye.
All right. Mr. Santu.
That Buffalo team, to get, how hard it is to get, let alone 4 Super Bowls, but they were in the playoffs constantly with Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, Bruce Smith. So many great. There are a lot of Hall of Famers on that team, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was the Super Bowl that really the drama was so intense.
Really was
in that one. It kind of cemented Super Bowl as kind of like a permanent fixture in American lives. Not that it wasn't already kind of, but it really became because the possible drama of games and got audiences into hoping that next year's Super Bowl would have as much or more drama, and I think people still look for that every year. This past Super Bowl was great too. It was a great game.
Mm-hmm.
So
really was. I this past year I thought was maybe for me one of my favorite Super Bowls because the strategy involved. I mean, there was so much happening in that game from a strategic standpoint. You can analyze it more so than every game has a lot of strategy, but this one I found it particularly compelling. Hey, Tooch, let's take about a 70, 80-second break. I'll run a quick commercial. I'll run to the washroom, and then you and I will talk about whatever comes to mind and some of your betting tips and so forth. And we'll do so in about a minute and a half. Listen to Greg Gabriel talking about the Combine. So what exactly goes on at the NFL Combine? I asked Greg Gabriel that question, and he said there's more than scouting going on.
Everybody involved in the league is at the Combine. So you got the coaches, the front office, you got your cap guy there. Your medical people are obviously there because of the Combine. But your whole personnel staff is there. Every agent is there too. Theoretically, you can't negotiate a contract with some of these free agents from other teams. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff being done down at Indy, and you don't have to lock into certain figures, but, you'd say, and I'll just use the name Joel Siegel because I know Joel. And Joel, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I'm not saying you do this. I'm just using your name. So here's Kyle Fuller's agent.
Okay.
But he said, hey, Joel, you got this player. What's it going to cost? Mm-hmm. Well, I've talked to about 4 teams already, it's going to cost you at least $12 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're getting that type of stuff. Then you're going to, you know, does he want to come here? Do we got a chance? And you can't talk to the guy because it's, you know, that would be tampering.
Right. Right.
So, but the agent can. Even though you're not supposed to be talking to the agent.
All right, we are back. It's Johnny Santucci and Aldo Gandia. That was Greg Gabriel, who will be with us. Our next show is Thursday around 11 o'clock. Time is could fluctuate, but we're scheduled right now for 11 o'clock. And we're going to talk more combine stuff on that show. But if there's anything that you guys would like us to tackle, Greg Gabriel and myself, in future shows, or even in this upcoming Thursday show, let us know. He definitely wants to respond to your questions, to what you want to hear us cover. And so Greg Gabriel Talks Football is the name of the show. And some of our recent shows are, if you haven't caught up with them, you really should, because this guy is basically teaching us a master class on scouting and has reputable sources on so many things. So take a listen to some of those past shows, either here on our YouTube channel or on audio podcasts. Let's see what Bear Truth has got. He's got Aldo Tooch. Off my mind to get the best weapon. He's of the mind to get the best weapons available. Yeah, we need a wide receiver or three, but would you be against a wide receiver and a tight end if it is a better combination for the money than just getting two wide receivers? Let me tell you something, Mr. Bear Truth 9. I would love to see an offense where we have that is primarily two tight end offense. Why? Because it's going to help the running game. Because we can then utilize the talents of David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. And you can, if this second tight end is a good pass catching tight end, and maybe even, but also has some blocking skills, then all of a sudden this offense becomes much more robust with what they can do as a rushing attack and a pass catching attack. So I don't have a problem with your idea at all. Running that 12 offense is a way to win in the NFL nowadays. What do you think, Mr. Tooch?
Yeah, I agree. I think you know, I'm not so sure we have a tight end weapon.
You don't like Komet?
He's okay. I mean, I hate to compare the Bears to Kansas City because you know they get that comparison. But if I were to say, if we could get a Travis Kelce. I mean, Travis Kelce, you saw it in the game against the Bills. You know, he went like 50 yards for a touchdown in that game. You know, how great would it be to have a weapon like that for Justin Fields? You know, so I'm with Bear Truth 9. I think, you know, having the wide receiver and the tight end weapon is just as good as having multiple wide receiver weapons.
Mm-hmm. You know, I am of the school that the tight end is a quarterback's best friend. And if you've got two tight ends who can get out there and Fields can dump the ball off while if he can't find an open receiver downfield, and he can get it to a tight end who can power his way for, again, yards after the catch, which we talked about earlier in the show, I think that's a brilliant way of going about it. You know, the team that most comes to mind was Aaron Hernandez pre-prison time, pre-suicide time, and Rob Gronkowski. What an offense Brady had there with those two running backs in it. And so if you can replicate that by picking up a tight end. Now, I haven't looked at the tight end free agency list lately.
You were reading my mind there with that Patriots comparison, because they're trying to do it again up there with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. You know, they know the success you can have with an offense like that. So, I mean, yeah, I was going to bring that up too, right there with you on the same page.
Well, and I look quickly. There are some really intriguing names for free agent tight ends. There's Dalton Schultz, a 25-year-old who just has come off a 78 catch, 800-yard, 8 touchdown season for the Dallas Cowboys. I would be surprised if the Cowboys let Schultz go, but they've got some salary cap issues. Zach Ertz is 31 years old, maybe a little too old in the tooth, whatever the expression is. But boy, if you can get him at a deal, Zach Ertz would be fabulous. Mike Gesicki, the 26-year-old from the Miami Dolphins, I doubt that he'll be available, but you never know. Gronkowski is too old. Jared Cook is a little too old. Both of those guys have gas left on the tank, but I wouldn't invest in them. Evan Ingram, the 27-year-old, maybe. David Njoku. Yeah, exactly. With Ingram, you just can't depend on him to play the majority of a 17-game regular season. Yeah. But David Njoku, 25 years old, had 36 catches last season with the Browns, 475 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's a guy who I would love to look at. Absolutely. Yeah. And then Hayden Hurst, O.J. Howard, Mo Allen Cox, those are guys who have not played to expectations. But if you can get them on a 1-year deal, maybe that's the way to go. And I agree 100% with Cliff Victoria. Jesper Horsted needs to get at least 30 to 40 snaps a game. Please give him 30 to 40 snaps a game, and I promise you he will give you 6 to 9 touchdowns in the season. The guy is just scores touchdowns. What was the Chris Carter thing? The Buddy Ryan complaining about Chris Carter. That's all he does is score touchdowns. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, I don't get why Nagy never used him. I
don't get it either.
There's the Bears we could have looked at.
Yeah, the Bears media made this big hullabaloo about the signing when they brought him in. You made the team, Jesper. Isn't this great? They sent out this video and stuff, and then he caught a touchdown pass in the first or second game of the season, and that was it. Never heard from him since. But David Njoku, Bear Truth 9 says he's been on his radar, so he would be good. I'm all for a 2 tight end system. I think you can win in today's NFL with that. So I wanted to, before we talk about movies and betting and stuff, Tooch, I wanted to get your impression and the impression of others in the chat room, especially Chubbs, who has been a big detractor of Sam Mustipher in weeks past, and he had good reason to be, but the fact of the matter is, lose that Mo Bierman graphic there for a second, and let me pull this up, Tooch. This is the win rates at center in the NFL as compiled by ESPN's stats department. You see right there in the middle of this graphic, it's a very small type, but right at the middle, right at that center X is the name Sam Mustipher, which means that as far as centers go, and as far as run games, running plays and passing plays, he's right in the middle of the NFL, right in the middle. Guys like Bradley Bozeman, you see him up at the upper top in that right quadrant. This guy is doing really good in the pass and run game. So if you can sign Bradley Bozeman, who is a free agent this year, he would be an upgrade over Sam Mustipher. But at the same time, with the Bears having so many needs, that if you were forced to bring Sam Mustipher back and have him compete against, somebody you draft at the center position or a low-level free agent pickup, it wouldn't, in my mind, be the end of the world, particularly if you factor in that Sam Mustipher is 24, 25 years old, and he's probably going to get better. You have to assume, you have to bank on some of the players you have on the roster are going to get better as they move into the prime years of football. I understand the reluctance to go another season with Sam Mustipher as your center. And I'm not saying you should sign him and just give him the job. You got to bring in some competition. But I do believe, you look at some of these other centers, Ryan Kelly, Ryan Jensen. Look at Ryan Jensen, who is a guy whose name I hear often as a replacement at center for Sam Mustipher. And this win rate that's been compiled again by ESPN, he wins less on running plays and pass plays than Sam Mustipher. So, and by the way, this graphic was compiled back in November, mid-November, before the Thanksgiving game. So it could have changed by the end of the season. But I do think that is some evidence that you can do worse than Sam Mustipher. I am here for the crucifixion, guys. Go at it.
My first thought is that a typo?
Maybe.
Maybe they were like, is this, well, we forgot to put in Mustipher. Let's just throw him in there.
Right in the middle.
Put him right in the middle. We don't know, we might have the best chance of maybe.
That's funny, too. Let's see. Chubb says he's not a starter in the NFL. He doesn't have the strength. He gets beat by all of the top guys, and almost every team has a top guy. Chubbs, I can't argue with you.
Yeah,
I can't argue. But the thing about centers is that they almost always get help from one of the guards. Now, there are, the defensive coordinator is going to call certain plays to put stress on that middle of the line. And so the center will have to go one-on-one. But there are ways, it's not the worst thing in the world to have an average NFL starter. And perhaps, and I'm not guaranteeing this, Chubbs or anyone else who is a Sam Mustipher detractor, perhaps he can get stronger so that he's not beat as often by some of the top guys. But you're absolutely right. I can't argue with what you just said there. But I love what you said. We forgot for Mustipher. Let's put him on the chart. Just put him in the middle.
We only got 31 centers on here. What the heck? Where's the 36? Who's the Mustipher? We're just sticking in the middle.
Exactly. Bear Truth 9 says Daniels to center. I like that idea, but it's a $10 million center. That's what you're going to pay for. Do you want to pay $10 million for a center? I think that there are some other options out there at that center position. Let me see. I had it actually. There's a guy named Austin Blythe who was the backup center at Kansas City. If Ryan Poles really likes this guy, he sort of has the same issues as Sam Mustipher in terms of the strength department, but as a zone blocker, he's outstanding. As a pass blocker, maybe not the best guy that you can find, but if you want a center who's going to cost you $2 million a year as opposed to the $10 million that James Daniels is going to cost you, a guy like Austin, what is his name again? Austin Blythe, played at Iowa, by the way, a few years ago in college. So, there's some decisions to be made there. I know how valuable the center position is, but first and foremost, you need a smart center. You need a smart one. And that's one thing you cannot argue is that Sam Mustipher is a very, very smart center. ESPN has basically forgot about the Bulls, but the Bulls, what are we talking about? They probably did forget about Sam Mustipher. Well done, Chubbs. Well done. And, there was another comment here. The Factor says Whitehair had his best season as a center. Well, yeah, that's true. He did have some bad snaps, though. Remember that. That was kind of a concern with him. But, we could do worse than having Cody Whitehair at center. I agree with that. So if you can find the left guard and right guard, if you're going to sign, would you be happy, guys, and Tooch, I'll ask you this. Would you be happy with Cody Whitehair at center, at right guard, James Daniels, and at left guard, a free agent acquisition? Or let's look at it this way. Larry Borum has been talked about as potentially playing guard. We saw him play right tackle, and he was very impressive, a lot more impressive than a lot of us thought that he was going to be as a rookie, a fifth-round rookie. But a lot of people are also saying his natural position is at guard. So what about Whitehair, Borum, and Daniels as the interior of the offensive line? What do you think about that, Mr. Santucci?
I'm with you, man. I like Borum as a tackle. He really, he didn't let a lot of pressures. He's strong and, helps the run game out there at right tackle. But, people say, like you said, he's better. They think he'll be better as a guard, and maybe if you did get, a free agent tackle out there, and there are some out there, this year. Some good free agents. Or draft. I find something in the draft. Someone drops to us in the second round, a decent tackle prospect. Like I said, guards are so easy to find in the draft. You can get great guards, in the 6th round, 5th round.
Great guards in the 6th round. Come on.
Yeah. There's guys. Sure.
No. That is so fucking rare for you to find a great player at any position in the 6th round. I had this argument. Well, yeah. How many times that happened? Name me one other great quarterback in the 6th round. Come on. I had this argument with
Kurt Warner was undrafted.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about a needle in a haystack. It happens. I find shit thrown around here that I haven't found in years. Oh, there the fuck it is. But it's been years. I had this argument with Shane back in the old 100 Proof show. And he was, I can get you a good guard, a great guard in the 3rd round. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They won the Super Bowl and they had 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders at the guard position. And this was when we were into the Quentin Nelson debate. And my retort was, all right, Quentin Nelson is going to be in at the guard position. He's a plug and play guy, and he's going to give you excellent results from day one.
Forever.
Exactly. Those guys that he was pointing out, those guards for the Philadelphia Eagles, those guys were in their 2nd, 3rd year before they won starting jobs.
Yeah.
So you can't equate them. You can't equate that, I agree. You can find some excellent players in day 3 of the draft, but it's not like it's common, I guess
the point I'm trying to make is that guards are not a high priority on draft boards. They're not.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
People don't start looking for guards until the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah, that's been the protocol, for lack of a better way of putting it, in the NFL. Right. My contention now is that the value of guards and the slot cornerback position are 2 positions from both sides of the ball that their value has increased. You can hide average offensive tackles, but you can't hide average or below average interior offensive linemen for long, and you can't hide a poor slot cornerback.
You mean like Sam Mustipher?
That's right. No, you're right. You're kidding, but you're right.
Right. No, I would. I agree. You have to build from the offensive line. You have to build the trenches first, and losing Akeem Hicks and Bilal Nichols, that's not going to help. Yeah. Losing James Daniels, it's not going to help. But like I said, this season, and I alluded to this earlier, that the next season I was going to talk about a Bears state of affairs. Should I play the music?
Yes, please.
All right. Might as well. And I'm sorry Dan's not here either.
He's listening as he drives to his job. Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
That is awesome.
So Bears state of affairs. Recently NFL futures odds came out to win the Super Bowl. And where do you think the Bears are, Aldo? Like what kind of odds, or at the top or bottom?
Oh, I'm gonna guess they're like on that a little lower than the middle, 250 to 1, maybe.
Yeah, they're 8,000 plus 8,000, so 800 to 1, so or 80 to 1. Sorry, basically.
Okay, so I'll lay $50 on that.
Plus 8,000 to win. Well, I wouldn't recommend laying any money down on the Bears next year to win the Super Bowl. But there's some of the teams that they're actually even with the Giants, if that gives you any indication of what the market is telling us about how the Bears will do next year. I'm probably getting roasted in the chat room for this.
It's starting.
I mean, so Foster covers like 2 million to 1. Try Foster, but no, if Don Burr's still in the chat room, the Lions are actually last at like 150 to 1. 150,000 odds plus 150,000. So I'm sure Don Burr. I could tell Don Burr to maybe put some money down on the Lions, and he'd probably do it.
You know what? We got to invite Don Burr on this show.
We should.
You guys debate.
He actually had really good comments tonight. I threw up 3 Don Burr comments, and I was like, "What the hell am I doing?" But he had some good comments. I actually starred one. Here's one. He said, "So if the Bears keep all these guys, it doesn't work out. Poles basically wasted a rebuild year," which is kind of what Aldo and I have been saying. We wasted a lot of rebuild years.
That's a great point.
Right. Some of the other ones I starred here from Tony Moy. If I were Poles, I sign younger players from free agency and from the draft, maybe 1-year contracts to fill the roster so you can get through this development year. I kind of agree with this, but I don't know about 1-year contracts. You could sign some of these younger players into 3-year contracts just in case they develop 4-year contracts. If you really believe in either the draft or free agent players, And then here's another one I started too. How about Harold Landry? When the Bears were picking in the second round, Chachi and I were like, Harold Landry is still out there. Bears, get Harold, draft him. We drafted Anthony Miller, and I was like, oh, why the fuck? We could get a receiver later, but Harold Landry's a pass rusher.
All right.
And I got roasted by everybody because everyone was so happy that we got Anthony Miller. Like Chachi and I we wanted Harold Landry.
And I saw a comment about Jarvis Landry at the wide receiver position because he's still under contract with the Cleveland Browns, but he has no guaranteed dollars left. So he might be available somehow, some way. Would you
maybe
want
trade? But
So now the problem that I have with Jarvis Landry, because he is good for 80, 90, 100 catches. He's that slot receiver. He can move the chains and so forth. But again, if you're going to emulate the Packers offense, and as Gene Chamberlain over at Sports Illustrated said, you're going to need some big body wide receivers, and the Bears don't have any in the roster right now.
Yep, they had one, but apparently he was sabotaged. It went down to 66 targets. But I don't know how good of a blocker Allen Robinson is. He didn't seem like that good of a blocker. But in the Packers offense, their wide receivers, they block in the run game, man. They get after you. Got guys like you mentioned, Alan Lazard and Marcus Valdez-Scantling and Devontae Adams. Those guys all block. They get on the cornerbacks and safeties and they stick on them. That's why Aaron Jones has a lot of success, in the run game.
Right. Listen, I said this months ago, and I know I changed my opinion like, the fucking wind changes direction. But I'm always just throwing out ideas here. I'm not going to, with any great conviction, say you got to do this. Only on certain occasions, certain obvious things. But one thing that Poles should consider in doing is just trying to spend as many resources as possible to help Justin Fields be the absolute best quarterback in the National Football League. Because we all know, if you have a great quarterback, if you have a Tom Brady, if you have a Drew Brees, if you have, name the name of the great quarterbacks, you're going to be competing every year for a Super Bowl championship. And so do whatever you can to build the absolute best offensive line and the best offensive weapons available. Provide those for this young man, and then start to think about rebuilding this defense. If you're stuck with Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn this year because of the dead money involved in trading them or even releasing them, not that they should consider that, but if you've got those guys, at least that you're going to have a pass rush. You're going to have a fucking pass rush. And then hopefully you get lucky with some other defenders, in the defense. But if you replenish, if you solidify, if you strengthen this offense for Justin Fields, and he's able to average 24 to 32 points a game, you're going to be in a lot of fucking games, and you're going to have a great quarterback for many, many years. And that means at least a very good football team. So something to consider. Chubb says the Bears are not trying to hide the fact that they are going to fix the offensive line. I mean, they have criticized them openly. You are 100% right, Chubbs. Ryan Poles, I forgot where it was, whether it was a press conference or an
Didn't
interview.
see the nasty, right?
Yeah,
Is that what he
exactly.
said? Something like that. Didn't see the nasty.
Exactly. That was exactly it. Yes, and you need an offensive line with some nasty. You know, remember what was his name? Oh fuck, forgot the name of the offensive lineman back in our day. Tooch, who would eat glass? Conrad Dobler. Remember Conrad Dobler? Yeah. He would eat glass before a game just so he could get the feeling of pain and going out there and stuff. He'd be playing with bloody mouth and stuff. We need guys like that. We need guys who are going to drive the defenders down into the ground and just bury them. And when they try to get up again, you fucking hit them again. That's what you need. You need that on offense and defense when we're talking about the line of scrimmage. So I'm with you there. Cliff says Bears will be in much better shape next year after we start to get past the pace years. I don't mind a rebuild year if it means that the team is competitive in 2023. And I'm with you there, Cliff. I'm totally with you. You know,
I don't think we have a choice, really, to be honest.
Well, as I said at the start of the show, you can try to take the Rams approach and try to build a winner for 2022, but you're going to end up paying the piper in 2023, 2024, when all of a sudden your aging stars like Mack and Quinn are gone or, just playing past their prime, and you're now stuck with rebuilding again. So it's a tough decision. I don't envy Ryan Poles, the challenge that he has, the mess that Ryan Pace left him. It's enormous, man. It really is.
Yeah, let's hope he does his job and finds us those gems, in free agency and in the draft. That's what we have to hope for this season. I mean, we could get by on Mack and Quinn rushing the passer again. We'll still have. If we re-sign Roquan Smith, we'll still have a decent. By all accounts, Roquan Smith will move to outside linebacker, and then maybe they'll give Joel Booney a shot. Didn't he say something like they never gave me a shot to play? I was only special teams. That was it. Never got a chance to even try to play on the defense.
Yeah.
I
I like Joel. He's been on the bar room a couple times, and he's got a great personality. He's the type of guy who does a lot of work for the community and so forth. He is a valued special teams player, but I do have to tell you, the few times that I saw him out in the field playing the linebacker position, he didn't do anything to stand out. And in fact, there were just certain plays where he looked like he just wasn't playing at a high level. So I'm being very diplomatic as I put that, but if that's true, then if it's true that he didn't play well because Nagy just never gave him the opportunity for that, then I hope that the Bears recognize that, and I hope he gets his opportunity. I would love to see him, play that inside linebacker along with Roquan Smith and whoever the strong side linebacker will be. That's another big thing with this Chicago Bears team. Who are the linebackers? The only two people you got signed for next year are Danny Trevathan, who they're going to release, and of course Roquan Smith, who you have to sign for a long-term contract. So that's another Ryan Poles challenge that he has ahead of him. Ugh, I feel sorry for this.
We're thin at linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
We were thin before last season. We had to go and bring Christian Jones back.
Exactly.
Right. I like Alec Ogletree. I like what I saw from him. The guy's a pretty good ball player. I don't know how. I think he's a little up there, but in years been in the league a while. But hey, a veteran. He's a veteran leader. Right. That's what we signed Danny Trevathan for, was veteran leadership. If we're letting him go, we could do a lot worse than Ogletree.
I hear you. I mean, Alec Ogletree at the middle linebacker position, we know he can play that position. He did it with the Rams. He played at a high level. Roquan at that weak outside linebacker position, and now you've got to get a strong inside linebacker, and you got to get some depth. Jeremy Atoshu is signed too, says PJ. You're absolutely right. So it's going to be, I don't know where Atoshu fits in a 4-3 defense. But again, that's just the base defense. You're going to be in lots of different coverages and so forth. So, oh my gosh, there's such an assessment. Yeah, Cliff, you're absolutely right. Ogletree over Trevathan easily. But unfortunately, it's the other way around. Trevathan is signed, Ogletree is not. So that's yeah. And Chubb says there are a couple of good inside linebackers in the draft. Yeah, Chubbs, and those will be gone by the time you pick 39, or if they're available. Yeah, you got other needs. You got a wide receiver need. You got an offensive lineman need. So that's the tricky part with what's going on with having the draft evaluate. Would you guys be okay? I think we talked about this last week. Would you be okay if the Bears traded away the 39th pick of the second round? That's their first pick in the draft. It's the 39th pick of the second round. Would you be okay if they traded that pick to acquire a couple of more picks later in the round or later in the draft? So, you pick up a late second rounder, you pick up a third or fourth rounder in exchange for number 39 overall. You need bodies. So would you be okay with that? Or do you value that 39th pick so much that you want to hold on to it?
Well, I'll tell you, it depends on who's there, obviously. But let's just assume that, hey, there's multiple players that they like, they're okay with letting this pick go, because they think someone will be there after they trade their pick away. At least one of the guys they have in their, board. But this is another reason why I dislike Ryan Pace is he left us with 5 draft picks, for this season. The salary cap, isn't in good shape. I mean, just the whole thing with Danny Trevathan and Alec Ogletree, like you said, we got the wrong guy under contract.
Right.
That's kind of like a lot of things. A lot of times I had the feeling that Ryan Pace would be like, hey, I really like you. You're a cool guy. Here's a great contract, Jimmy Graham. Let me sign you. You're my buddy, aren't you? Here's an extra 10 million or something on your contract. Same thing with like Danny Tree. He gave these like stupid contracts out to players that were, probably well past their prime, like Jimmy Graham and Danny Trevathan, for example, the 2 guys I made. But and I think that with as regards to the 39th pick, they probably don't have much of a choice. If they get a decent offer, they're probably not going to turn it down because, like you said, there are so many holes in this roster, that they could. And I think the draft is deep enough to bear it out. There's some decent players that will be second, third round. I think like it's kind of like maybe top heavy at the top of the first round, and then like a lot of like late first round, second round talent stretching through into the third round this year. But I think they're probably Ryan Poles is probably in a position where he says 5 picks just isn't enough where we're at, and I got to seriously look at trading some of these picks to get more ammunition.
Mm-hmm. Jay Sanders is asking, why can't Roquan move to the stay as the middle linebacker since he's been playing inside linebacker? And he wonders what is Roquan's natural position. I think at Ohio State they ran a 3-4-2, and so he played inside linebacker.
He was Georgia.
Georgia. I think they ran a 3-4 there. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone.
Yeah,
but
they did.
Yeah, but so this is going to be new. But the key thing here is in this type of defense, it's the weak inside linebacker. It's Darius Leonard with the Colts. He was the key guy. He was the number one guy with this defense because as the weak side linebacker, that means there's typically nobody in front of you. You're away from the tight end, so the tight end can't block you. And you don't have to guard the tight end. You can fucking freelance. You're not going to really freelance, but you have the opportunity to make big plays. That weak inside linebacker, if he's a stud like Roquan Smith, you should target him for 5 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles, and at least 5-7 sacks.
Yep.
I mean, and those are beautiful fucking numbers for a defensive player. That's what Darius Leonard was doing. And Darius Leonard has been voted above Roquan Smith in awards, Pro Bowl and stuff like that. Roquan Smith is a better player than Darius Leonard, not by much, but he is a better player. And so Now Roquan Smith moving to a defense that's really going to value his athletic skills and really utilize him as a key player on this defense. I think you'll see by the end of the season, which is why they should sign Roquan as quickly as possible, because I think that by the end of the season, Roquan is going to be considered. I mean, Pro Football Focus just came out with their top 101 players from the 2021 NFL season. So I'm scrolling down looking for Roquan. Roquan is not on the fucking list. I mean, you can blame Pro Football Focus for being stupid with their gradings.
They're worse than ESPN.
They are, but that's also, you saw that in the NFL Network's last season in their top 100, where his peers didn't pick him in the top 100. That doesn't have anything to do with the fact that, Roquan is bad. It just has to be that he's overlooked and he's not being utilized as well as he should to exploit his athletic skills. I mean, the guy is a stud. He's a fucking stud, and we need him in an offense that can utilize those skills to the advantage. Bear Truth 9 adds, Aldo, but you watch Quan. His height IQ may be best in the middle. Yeah, maybe
high IQ. I think he means.
Okay, I agree.
But Eberflus's defense, like you said, the key position is the will linebacker. This is the Lance Briggs position. I think Greg Gabriel actually talked about this with you on his show maybe a couple weeks ago.
He did.
A couple weeks ago, Greg Gabriel said that's what Roquan is destined for, that spot in Eberflus's defense. He's going to be playing the will. He'll fit fine there. And like you said, he's going to put numbers up there. And so I think if he does, we'll get a good chance to find out, a good comparison with Darius Leonard of, how they compare after this year. And I think they better re-sign him before this year, because if he has a monster year, it's going to be tough to re-sign him. They have to really fork out the dough.
Indeed. Just noticed something. Excuse me, with my computer. All of a sudden, I'm on battery and not power. So, sing a song. I got to check my.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a great night. I won every bet tonight. So tonight, my top pick was Texas Tech. If you followed me on Twitter, I gave out Boise State, San Diego State under, that hit. And a couple other top picks I had tonight were Akron over Bowling Green, and Kent State over Ball State. So also had St. Bonaventure over Rhode Island today. I hit every bet tonight. I was saying, it's like I swept my board, but like I said, I had to go in the office. So I was like, it's one of those days where I just kind of liked a few plays, and they weren't like hard plays to pick. They were easier plays. I just kind of didn't put a lot of effort. February. I've been trying to say, okay, we got to play some dogs, because February conference play. In college basketball, you've got to pick a lot of dogs. Today I picked mostly favorites, and favorites killed it tonight, man. So it was a good night. I loved Texas Tech tonight in a revenge game against Oklahoma. So if you're watching, people in the chat room are probably like, this fucking sucks. Well, hey, March Madness is right around the corner, man. If you don't like watching the NCAA tournament, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's like one of the best times of the year watching kids play basketball. They're not $1 million athletes yet. They're still trying to get to the NBA. They're still maybe seniors, and they're playing in their last season of basketball. This is where like basketball is really pure. It's not like the NBA where it's kind of like more like theater. It's more like wrestling. Pro wrestling. But love college basketball. And NFL and college basketball are probably the most fun to wager on. After NFL's over, you've got college basketball, and then after college basketball's over, there's not a lot. Baseball's on strike; they're locked out. Remember, they're locked out right now. We don't know if the baseball season is going to start. And then you've got NBA, where you don't even know before game time who's going to be playing that night. You could bet on Milwaukee Bucks, and Giannis is going to. All of a sudden he's decided he's got to sit out, or mostly like the Nets had this issue, Brooklyn Nets and the Lakers. That just guys would just sit out, especially as you get close to the All-Star break. They're like, okay, if I sit out these last few games, I'm going to get a whole week of rest. So then you can't really bet on the NBA. So it's just it's a difficult time. But right now, college basketball, man, it's been a blast.
And I gotta say, PJ says I can't see myself betting my hard-earned money. I would be pissed when I lose. And
I hate to lose, man.
Yeah, everybody, right?
Hates to lose.
Nobody's gonna be happy when they lose.
Yeah.
But I will say this, and I've never been a big sports bettor. I do it on occasion. Like if I'm in Vegas, I'll spend an afternoon at the sports book. I went to Vegas during, I forgot what year, but during March Madness, and me and my buddies, we just had so much fucking fun. And I didn't know what I was betting on in terms, because I'm not a big college basketball aficionado.
Yeah.
But I bet a few bucks, as all the time, you put $200 in your pocket and you say, that's it. If I lose dollar number 200, that's it. I'm going to go home a loser. But if you can be self-disciplined for that. So with the betting that I do nowadays, I put $200 in. My wife gave me permission and I got up to $1,200. I won $1,000, and she goes, "Holy shit! Take that money out." And I go, "No, I'm going to leave it in there in case I see like a sure thing. I'll bet $500 or something like that." And she goes, "Oh, you're crazy." Well, she was fucking right. I'm down to $147.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. The key thing is to put a budget. Yeah, and be disciplined about it. Don't let temptation get the better part of you. And it makes watching certain games a little bit more fun. Now, Tooch will send me sure things here. Towson State versus Chattanooga Central. And I'm like, what the fuck? Are these on TV and stuff?
My two best bets. I the best bets I gave out on Twitter. I've won my last 5. So just if the free pick, if you retweet my free pick play, I'll send it to you by direct message. And I have a little winning streak going right now. My sure thing last night was New Mexico State. I was so confident on that. Put 10 units. Whether your unit is $5 or $10, or some people's units are $100. They're higher rollers. But I was really confident in that game last night. Tonight, same thing with Texas Tech. 10 unit plays. So my past 2 nights I've hit 10 unit plays. And
cool.
Man, I tonight I won $500. Just one night. One night of betting. So pretty good night so far. Like I said, if you watch our show, and when Anthony is like, you gotta ask Aldo, we want to bring Maximum Edge to the Barroom Network. Because Anthony's he's a big Bears fan too. We'll have to have Anthony come by and visit. She's a Chicago guy, a professional handicapper. He quit his job at FedEx, and he's been doing it for 17 years. He's got clients, and with college basketball, I run numbers through my spreadsheet, help him out. He's like, what games are you looking at? We collaborate on college basketball every day. So we're trying to get through this. We got about a month left of college basketball, because in my opinion, college basketball is where you can make the most money gambling on sports. NFL's really tough, man, because the lines are so sharp. College basketball, there's so many games, there's so many colleges. A lot of times you'll find, hey, the odds makers have made a mistake, and you can find that edge. A good example tonight was everybody was on Michigan State +6. Iowa blew them out. I liked Iowa. I didn't bet that game because, sometimes you're, you don't have to bet every game. I like to just pick, 3 games maybe and bet 3 games, and those are, the top 3 plays. But tonight was a good night for Anthony and I all around. And
Retro has a request.
Yeah.
Did Tooch just say collaborate?
Yeah. Cappers collaborate all the time. I actually, I have, I'm in a little group of handicappers. I'm not really the handicapper. I'm more of a podcaster, but I do have clients who subscribe to my picks every day. And Anthony is more of the handicapper than myself, the one I do the show with. And we've had some great college basketball guests on recently. We had a couple guys from a show called Three Man Weave. They're young guys. They're former college basketball players, and they know every player. They know every coach. They know who's injured. They know every school, and they give out great advice. The show's on at noon every day on YouTube. And I usually don't. I don't miss it. I watch their show probably every day, and they give out the best information for college basketball. I mean, you can't miss it if you're going to wager on some college basketball. But Anthony is he's a longtime Bears fan, loves the Bears. So me and him get along real well. You know, we talk Bears all the time. We talk Bears a lot when it was love the NCAA, lots of fun games. NBA is blah.
Yeah, it really is. The NBA needs a lot of fixing, man. It really does. It's beautiful because you got the best athletes there. Arguably, you got the best athletes. When there are certain games that you watch in the NBA level and you say, "Holy fuck, this is just extraordinary athleticism." I love it, but there are just some problems going on, some rule changes that need to happen. They need to look at the 3-point lane. They need to look at the 3-point shot, the 3-second, the lane, I'm of the opinion that they should adapt the lane as it is in international basketball games. And I'm of the opinion that the 3-point line should be moved further back. And I would also love them to consider widening the basketball court because players have become so big right now. I mean, I've gone to NBA games and sat 3 or 4 rows up, and it just looks like fucking traffic hour in Chicago. And you got these incredible athletes, and they have no room to move around. And I think we would see a prettier game if the court was a little wider. Well, I'm not saying a lot. Just go into a row or two of those expensive seats. But I just would love for the NBA to start entertaining some rule changes. And then this whole load management thing, as you said, John, that's just bad for sports. I'm not saying that we should, I'm not saying that we should run these athletes to the ground and kill them. Absolutely not. Maybe the answer is to do a 64-game season and expanded playoffs or something like that. I think all of these seasons are getting too long, and we're seeing poorer and poorer quality of pay because of the money. And that's not right. We should do whatever possible to ensure that these athletes have the best accommodations, the best rules, the best everything, so that they can really flourish and we can see some outstanding athleticism at its fucking best. I hate the fact that the NBA is just driven by profit. The NFL is driven by profit. MLB is driven by profit. Sometimes you can get better without it all being about the money. It just really pisses me off.
Yeah, that's why I love college basketball. It's pure. It's not about the money. It's about the kids. It's about the coaches and them. They're drawing up plays and the rule. The rules. The rules are forced more. They'll call traveling. NBA, they're not going to let guys take an extra step. It's just ridiculous. Come on.
It's a joke, man. Yeah. And then we had, these proof that there was an NBA ref who was cheating for gambling purposes.
Exactly.
That's been so underplayed. That should be a bigger, because I would not be surprised if that was happening again in the NBA, and it was just being, and that it's happened multiple times in the NBA and it's been squashed. Reminds me of, remember that McDonald's documentary that was on HBO? I remember you talking about it on your show. What was that called? McMillions?
Right. McMillions.
McMillions, yeah. And that was, I was working there at the time, and And I was part of the
They
communication.
were stealing the winning tickets, right? The
Right.
winning game pieces.
Right. The company that was in charge of security, the whole monopoly thing was outsourced to a different company, but the company that was hired to handle the security on that stuff, the guy who was stealing the $1 million tab and selling them to other people so that they would claim the $1 million. And so I remember being at McDonald's at the time and trying to figure out ways to squash the news. And I believe it was there was some big news story that squashed everything. All of a sudden, it wasn't a front page story anymore because we invaded Iraq or some shit. And everybody at McDonald's was like, sigh of relief. And people slowly forgot about it. So, but I just want to bring this up before we get final thoughts out of the way here.
Yeah.
There's an interesting argument about this whole Roquan Smith playing the middle linebacker or will linebacker in the chat room. And I just want to say, that I agree with the factor that if you want to nullify Roquan Smith, you put him in at the mic. That even in college, I remember when Georgia and Ohio State were playing in a national championship game, and I remember reading reports that if you want to nullify Roquan, you run right at him because you're going to have some much bigger guys at him, knocking him over, and you're going to be able to run the ball and pick up positive yards doing that. It was the same argument they had with Brian Urlacher when he played middle linebacker, and it took him years to be able to that's why, as Greg Gabriel says, we got big ass defensive tackles to clear the way for Urlacher to make tackles because we knew if a big 300-pound offensive lineman was going to stick to Urlacher, he was done. And so that's the situation with Roquan. You want Roquan to be uninhibited so that he can run to the ball carrier without a big guy in his way, which is why
that's what he did at Georgia.
That's what he did at Georgia, which is why he will be doing that for the Chicago Bears. There's no argument there. But I've been with one eye catching some of the debate in the chat room.
Yeah, I was watching it too. He, like you said, Roquan is not a big guy. He's what, 6 feet tall?
Yeah, 6'1", I believe. Yeah,
6'1", 240, maybe 238, something like that, 235. Right. That was the knock on him in college too, is that he would sift through the traffic. He wasn't going to take on blocks head on. He would rather avoid, slip around the blockers and get to the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what this moving him to will is going to allow him to play like that, like he did in college. He's not going to have to take on blocks and stuff. Now, he did a fantastic job at middle linebacker because he's a damn good player, but he's going to be even better, in Eberflus's system as the will.
I agree. Right now, to me, the best conceivable lineup at that linebacker position is having Alec Ogletree stay at that middle linebacker position. He's got experience there. That's where he played with the Rams. He was drafted to play that position. You get Roquan over at the will linebacker. Let me do a quick search here as to who are the top middle linebacker free agents available, because I would hate to bring in a rookie to play that linebacker position, but maybe not. I mean, if it's a great rookie. But here are some of the linebackers. Devondre Campbell, who's coming from a 3-4, but he could probably play that inside linebacker position and is very affordable at PFF has him with a $9 million average contract a year. Alexander Johnson, I frankly don't know much about him, but he was at Denver, played a 3-4. For Yasi Alukan, I know I'm mispronouncing that. I apologize, but it was with the Falcons, but he played a lot of weak side linebacker and played middle linebacker. Maybe he's somebody to look at. He's estimated at making $10 million average per year for $40 million. So there are some inside linebackers, Leighton Vander Esch from the Dallas Cowboys. We should keep an eye on him because he comes from the Rod Marinelli school, and we know that Eberflus comes from the Rod Marinelli school. So maybe he's a guy to keep an eye on. I've seen his name mentioned in the chat room numerous times.
Yeah.
But there aren't a lot of free agent middle linebackers out there. Chubb says that the middle linebacker should be 250 pounds plus. Roquan is more like 234. I agree with that, Chubbs. So big item to watch over the next few weeks. And I'll talk to Greg Gabriel about this on a Thursday when I meet with him at 11 a.m. Tooch, anything else you want to chat about? Is there a movie that you've watched that you want to recommend to people, or a TV series that you started? Because I've got one. I've got Promising Young Woman. Have you heard of it with, what's her name? Carrie Mulligan. She is such a cutie, man.
Yeah, I don't know this one.
Oh, you're going to like this one, Tooch. Do you like black comedies? Where they're making fun of really serious subjects?
I love Don't Look Up, man.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's really funny.
Well, Promising Young Woman is a story about Carrie Mulligan plays a woman who is trying to avenge the rape of her best friend from 10 years past. Back in college, her best friend was raped, and the authorities and the college did nothing to investigate it because the rapists were of a privileged background. And
was
so
it Bill Cosby? I'm just kidding.
It could have been Bill Cosby, but I don't think so. And so she goes about getting redemption or revenge in a very unique way. She pretends to be totally fucked up at nightclubs, allows herself to be picked up by guys, and just before they're about to penetrate her, she all of a sudden becomes very sober and shames that person. Yeah, this is good, man.
Yeah.
This is fucking good. And the ending in the movie, you know how I often will say,
oh, it's a movie. It's not a series.
No, yeah, it's a movie.
Okay,
it's
great. Yeah, good.
2-hour movie. Yes.
Yeah.
The ending, the third act of the movie, I often say third acts in the movie are generally awful. You know, script writers and directors, it's hard to come up with a great ending for a movie. This movie has a great fucking ending.
Nice.
So I highly recommend that. And by the way, I highly recommend this show that PJ just happened to talk about. He says, I watched Love is Blind. I like the thought behind the premise, but I didn't like that they didn't show all of the contestants during the process. PJ, you're absolutely right. This is the second year that Love is Blind is playing on Netflix. Season 1 was outstanding. Social media went crazy about it because it happened during the pandemic. It's a dating show. And what happens is that women and men meet each other in pods. You can't see who you're talking to. So you develop an emotional connection. And the rules are that after 10 days, you ask that person to get married or not. And a lot of people choose to make that proposition of marriage. And then they see each other face to face and then they run for
I got to see that.
It's good. Much better than Bachelor. Much better than that fucking bullshit Bachelor where they set up these contrived situations to create drama. This feels much more real.
I got to see that.
But PJ is right because they start with about 40 people and they only focus in on 5 or 6 of what they think are the most interesting stories. And it sort of does feel like, man, I would have liked to have seen what that cute looking chick with the big titties.
So I did watch The Tinder Swindler, which you talked about before, right? The Tinder Swindler.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
I watched that.
What'd you think?
It's great. And I watched Inventing Anna, which is kind of like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it stars Ruth from Ozark as the fake German heiress, you know, the meme, you know, based on the true story. And I really got hooked into that one. That was really good. A series. It's like Tinder Swindler. Tinder Swindler was more kind of documentary, and Inventing Anna was like a drama, you know, with characters and acted well and stuff, you know. And but it was based on a true story, and I like both of them. I think you'd really get a kick out of the one with Ruth from Ozark, though. Aldo, it's
I gotta watch that. And
it's very good. I couldn't stop watching. I know my wife and I watch it in like 2 days. I think there's 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we enjoyed that. that as well. But I got to see this Love Is Blind now. I want to see what they look like.
Well, and some of them are gorgeous. And by the way,
okay. Some of them are not gorgeous though.
True. There is a Love Is Blind Brazil version too. Which is very, very difficult to watch because we're watching, my wife and I, for the first several episodes, we watched the dubbed version, so we wouldn't have to read subtitles. And the people who did the voiceover dubs were just reading in a monotone way the script. So I love you, and I want to see you every day for the rest of my life. Oh, I can't wait to be held in your arms. That's the way. And so finally we said, fuck it, let's give the subtitles a chance. And now we're enjoying it more. And I only bring it up because there is a woman in the Love Is Blind Brazilian edition who is a model who I told my wife, sweetheart, I'm sorry, but if I got to choose between you and her, and she goes, I understand. She is beautiful. She is fucking gorgeous. Oh my God.
Oh,
A couple of other, Brazilian women are so shapely and gorgeous. Yeah. And I want to ask you this question, Bear Truth 9. What have you learned from all your relationships, marriages, and what does it take besides the obvious to make a marriage work? I'll let you answer that, Tooch, first, and because you've had many relationships in your life, and then I'll offer an opinion to Bear Truth. What do you think?
Right. Well, I'm very happily married. My wife and I are. I think I could answer that by saying it's a team. You know, you have to work together, help each other, share the load. You know, to say, sharing all the work, equal, help wherever you can, and remember that you're a teammate, of this person.
Well said.
And you stick with them and you trust them to have your back. And I think that's what really makes at least my marriage work, is that my wife and I, we share the chores. If she needs a little help with something, I'm right there. She doesn't need to ask me, same thing. If I'm struggling with something, she'll come by and give me a hand with whatever it is, and I think that for me, we share the cooking, we share the shopping, all the chores. We have two kids together, that helps. And then, just the support each other no matter what.
That's well said, Tooch, and I will share this. The secret to a good marriage is just don't get caught. All right, we move on. We move on. The Factor says that Making a Murderer is a really good Netflix documentary series. It's about a real-life case of a guy who gets a whole town to go after him. They charge him for something, and he supposedly did not do it. I'm going to watch that, Factor, because you made it sound really good. You made it sound really good. All right. Anything else you want to share before we pull the plug on this edition?
Man, I'm trying to think that I want to look at because I did a show today with Sean Higgs from Wager Talk and Picks and Parlays, another handicapper, and he and Anthony and I gave out 3 picks. I think free picks for tonight. And I think all 3 of them won. So I was trying to go and check. I know we had the under in the Boise State San Diego State game. Sean gave out San Diego State +2. That just barely won. And then Anthony gave out another one too. Goodness gracious, what was that one play? I'm trying to look as I check the scores.
I just want to say, while you're checking the scores, PJ said that I could talk about marriage and relationships for an hour. There's a lot of stuff involved in it. PJ, why don't you come on one of our summer shows or spring shows, and we'll have a forum on relationships. I know that you just heard Tooch talk about very eloquently about what makes a good marriage. Dan Aguirre has tons of thoughts, and he has, he's still, frankly, and I know he won't mind me saying this because he's talked about it on this show, but he still has scars from his previous marriage, his own marriage. Yeah. And so, we can talk about that, you, PJ, and we'll invite some other of our followers here to have an open discussion about marriage, and we'll dedicate a whole show to just relationship building, because there's a time in the year. There's about a 4-week period right after OTAs and right before training camp. Well, we're desperate for material, man. So let's talk about our wives.
Yeah. And
she's gonna kill me if she hears this.
Yeah, I just want to say I'd love to have barflies in the chat room when I'm doing the sports wagering show, because we talk other stuff. We talk Bears. If we're talking football, I will definitely get the opinion of the Bears of my guests. I have David Behrman from ESPN on every Wednesday night. He and I talk football and golf. And then, I have the college basketball guys. I have other handicappers that I work with as far as like collaborating or consensus picks, and we have a retweet club where we retweet each other every day.
Oh, nice.
So
hey, Tooch, can I interrupt you a second? Do you find that golf is a good sport to bet on? Because I've won some nice money on golf, picking players to be in the top 10. You usually get good odds on that. And do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Yeah, I like golf. I like wagering on golf, especially for like top 10 finishes and stuff. I do like wagering on the golf. I never liked it before. I never watched much golf until I started wagering on it. But David Behrman's really knowledgeable about the golf, who to pick for what top 10 finish, top 5 finish. So that he's the main dude at ESPN for all that stuff for golf and wagering.
I also want to and I apologize that this is off track from what you're saying. I want to let people know that if you want to contact me, the best way to do it is through Twitter. I check my Facebook account occasionally, and I'm not really thorough in it, so I've missed some important messages. I know PJ says that he just reached out to me recently, and I apologize that I did not get back to you. But I've been sort of, I use Facebook for business purposes to promote the show, but in terms of contact with friends and followers of the show and family and so forth, I started to deviate away just because I don't like what Zuckerberg is doing with Facebook. They're stealing so much of our identity on Facebook, and I think Twitter is not as terrible at it. Every app is trying to get information on you. There are, but there are certain troubling things about Facebook that I've learned over the years that makes it the worst of all the major apps out there.
I agree.
So I spend as little time as possible on Facebook. So my DMs are open both on my Twitter account, my personal Twitter account at Aldo Barkeeper, and the business one at Barroom Network. So send me there. I'm trying to get myself going on Instagram. And so I promise by this spring, I'm going to have a robust Instagram. But that's it. Instagram, Twitter, and a little bit of Facebook. After that, I don't want to fucking think about TikTok or Mojo or Wojo or whatever the fuck. Too many apps out there for me to worry about. I'd love to hire, if I had the money, I'd hire a social media manager to manage all this shit that we've got going on, which would be helpful for the bar room. But me personally, I just can't keep track.
I can't either, Aldo. It's too much. I could barely keep up with Twitter, and I have to do I'd have to do a free play every day.
Mm-hmm.
Then I put out a promo. Like Anthony does these parlay challenges where if he doesn't win, you get a free week.
Mm-hmm.
Or he does a chat. If I don't go 3-0 of my best bets, you get a free week. I tell you, it's hard for me to do stuff like he does. And, he picks up a lot of new clients that way And sometimes when they buy the parlay card or they buy the card for the day, they win. So they get their money's worth either way.
Yeah,
which is good. But
yeah, and there are people younger than us, mostly, who are very adept at operating between all of these social media challenges. Yeah. I've always been. I don't carry my cell phone around all day long. I don't want to be interrupted. I want to, if I sit down to watch a movie, I don't want to be, text messaging and stuff. Yeah. if I sit down to have dinner with the family, I don't want to be, on the phone and stuff. So that means I'm going to be away from my phone. There are some times where I can't fucking find my phone. I leave it down in the man cave.
I left mine at work today. I had to go back. I drove downtown and left. I'm like, where the fuck is my phone?
Yeah.
I had to go back to the office.
And that's the way I like it. I don't want the fucking phone, to be dictating, my life. I like to be left alone with my thoughts. I like to be left alone with my wife and my kids.
Yep.
Those things are much more important. I love cinema and movies. And so when I watch a movie, I don't want to be interrupted. I am one of those fucking snobs where if you're talking during the movie, out of here, you little pixie. What's the line in It's a Wonderful Life? The two of you, out of here, you little pixies. So that's the way I am. Anyway, Ooch, it's always fun being on with you.
I'm mad that I didn't send you my Texas Tech pick today, but like I said, I had to go into the office and it was horrible because I'm so used to working from home. I get down there, I'm like, where do I park? Because they moved my office to another building.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the basement. I don't have a red stapler, but it's I got down there. I'm discombobulated because I'm so used to working from my home office. I go in there. I've got to do all this stuff, and I forgot my phone. I forgot my badge. I had to go to the guardhouse. And tell them, I just left today for the day, and I forgot my phone and my badge.
Don't you hate that? Yeah.
He's like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I show him my driver's license, sign in."
Oh,
and then he's got to buzz me into the other building, and then I walk over to the north building, and then get back there, grab my badge and my phone. So I'm so used to,
old people problems, guys.
Yeah, old people problems. Yep.
All right, I wish I would have gotten that pick from you because I need a winner. Let me show you. Look at it. Says red is lost.
Yeah, red is bad.
So there's one green one for win. That was last night.
Yeah.
Look at more reds. Look at I lose the streak. More reds.
I won every bet tonight, man. This was probably the best I've had in a long time.
Good for you.
So.
All right, so we will be back here next Tuesday. Look at this guy. Fucking winner. Holy shit, man. It's been a while since I had that. Well, golf is coming back, and I'm going to be paying closer attention to college basketball. So hopefully I can get back over that $200 investment that I made over at DraftKings.
Dan like basketball? I know he calls basketball games. I don't know if he likes basketball.
He loves basketball.
Okay.
He's not a big fan of the current NBA.
Neither am I.
His favorite player, and he could talk for hours about Hakeem Olajuwon, Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon, who, by the way, I agree with him. Hakeem Olajuwon should be on everybody's top 10 players of all time.
Absolutely.
I don't get it that he is so often overlooked. This guy was a 7'1" center with point guard type skills.
That's amazing. Like Giannis,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Giannis on the Bucks is an amazing athlete right now, man.
Jabari says Aldo's an old man getting down on social media. Whatever happened to the good old black book? You ain't kidding, man. That black book, by the way, I still own, and it's back there. Yes, my wife hopefully is not watching. It's back there. It's hidden up by the Bordeaux collection.
Up in the underneath the ceiling tiles.
Oh man, when we first moved into this house 12 years ago, I was looking for hiding places for my pot, for my porn.
Where's the best place, man?
Exactly. We're gonna keep this away from the kids and my wife and stuff.
Oh, anyway, I did have one story. So for this past weekend, it was 68 degrees on Sunday.
Yeah, nice.
So I was like no jacket, and my son, like I have an older son who's he's in his mid-20s now, and he loves going to the gun range and shooting. So me and him went I don't spend enough time with my son because I'm so fucking busy.
Yeah,
and he and I went there and we shot the assault rifle and the pistols and the shotgun. Nice. It was it's a beautiful range owned by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. And they have these great like metal targets, and then you shoot them, and they go down. Then you pull the rope, they stand back up and stuff. And I was like, I didn't do too bad. I'm rusty as hell with pistols, but my son has a nice scope rifle, and he has a bolt action and everything. He's
Nice.
collecting them and stuff. You know, he spends his money on guns.
Mhm.
You know, and I had a fun time shooting the scoped one because you could 100 yards, man. I was hitting. They have little metal animals out there like a fox and a pig and a deer, you know, and a turkey, and you shoot from 100 yards away. And I was hitting them, so it was fun. You know, the scope was nice. But,
Sounds awesome. How
there's
is your
something.
son?
But he's doing a lot better. He's
Does
working.
he have a job? Yeah,
He's
let's
got a
go.
job. He's happy
Oh.
now. He's got money, so he's out of his depression.
Yeah,
And,
good for him. I
yeah.
have another close friend of mine, Dennis, who for years he was worried about his son. His son wasn't motivated. He's just smoking pot, hanging out with his friends and
That's
stuff.
my son. Yep.
And then, you know, after a while, his son realized what a lot of people who go through that stage is everybody else has a job. Everybody else is going to school. Everybody else has a girlfriend. Everybody else needs money to take that girlfriend out. And then all of a sudden they say, you know what? I'm going to fucking get a job, or I'm going to go to school, or I'm going to get a girlfriend and stuff. And that's what happened with my buddy Dennis's son. And things are going well for them now. And I hope the same for you, brother.
Yeah, you know, I got to the point where I was telling my son, who talked to me about, you know, I'm this and that, and I don't, you know, this is terrible. And I'm like, you know how much sympathy you get from me? Zero, because everybody has fucking problems. You know?
Yep.
So don't talk to me about it. Get your shit together. You know, and he did. You know, he's goes to night school and he works during the day. So
awesome.
Power to him. Yep.
Good.
I had fun hanging out with my son. Me and him haven't had a chance just because I have toddlers and I have an adult son.
Now, is he up there in Iowa with you?
He's in Iowa. Yep.
Okay.
And before he was like, I don't like it here, you know, because it's Iowa. You know, it's like it's not Chicago. But Plink and steel targets. That's right. Totally. Yeah, I shot both, you know, small ammo and big ammo, and you know, shot the shotgun. You know, I'm still sore from the kick on some of the rifles and stuff, but it's a lot of fun, man.
You guys remember you remember my story when I shared 100 proof, my experience with shooting a BB gun?
No, but did you have a BB gun when you were a kid?
I did not, but this was when I was in my mid-20s. I got a divorce from my first wife, and so I needed a place to stay. And my buddy had an apartment in his home. You know, he had a 3-flat apartment, and then in the back there was a smaller 2-flat building. And so I rented an apartment from him. And so one day he invites me over. Hey, you want to have dinner? And then afterwards we'll shoot rats. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Are we shooting rats for the dinner? He goes, no, afterwards we'll shoot rats, because unfortunately this was before Chicago had lids for their garbage cans. And so we had dinner, had a few beers, went out to the porch, my buddy Walter, and there's fucking rats coming out of everywhere. And I'm thinking, where the fuck did I just move to? Oh my God. And he hands me a BB gun. He goes, fire when ready. And so I started seeing rats coming out, and I'm fucking firing 6 shots for every rat. And they were like, give me that fucking gun. What's wrong with you? I go, these things are scary, man. These fucking rats are the size of a Volkswagen. And so I'm shooting these things like crazy. You know, they're basically inner city rats. When I first
huge. They're like small cats.
Exactly. When I first
don't
moved,
know, the Chicago rats are big. They're like little
huge.
cats. Man.
They're huge. And I grew up. I was born in Spanish Harlem in New York City, and then some fucking big rats there too. But when I came to Chicago, I was like, holy shit, these motherfuckers are bigger than New York rats. And so that's my one. I think that's the only time I fired anything resembling a gun, other than, you know, being at the arcades and stuff. I've never been a big gun guy.
Come out here to visit me. We're going to go to that Puerto Rican restaurant. We'll go up to this beautiful gun range here. I mean, it's right near the lake up north here of where I live, and it's a lot of fun, man. I mean,
I'm looking forward to it already, brother.
And you know, the BB gun too. It was me and my friends too. Only it was a squirrel. And I swear, one time, one of my buddies was like, "See that squirrel up in the tree?" It's like plink, you know, and the squirrel was like, got him right in the chest. The squirrel grabbed the chest and he fell over just like a person. I'll never forget. I think I was 18. You know, shot him right through the heart like a stuntman.
Chubbs, you may be right. The rats are bigger in New York, and there are a lot more. I will say this. You are absolutely right. There are definitely more of them in New York, but the ones that I encountered in the Humboldt Park neighborhood in Chicago, you know, let's not underestimate Chicago rats towards New York rats. I mean, come on. You know, we should be rooting for the fact that we have bigger rats in Chicago than New York. All right, it is time to pull the plug on this edition of Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls.
That was
Johnny
fun.
Santucci, we have had so much fun tonight, and I'm so happy you were here for the start of the show to fill in for Dan.
Yeah.
I hope you're available next Tuesday. How are the kids, by the way?
Kids are good. My 5-year-old's in kindergarten. We had the parent-teacher conference.
Mm-hmm.
Alita is 5, and Aldo, she loves Aldo.
I
Alita.
know.
She loves Aldo, and she's not only is she beautiful, she's smart, and the teacher's like, she is the kindest. She's kind to everybody. She helps. She's a leader. You know, she's sweet. She helps the teacher.
Cool is that?
Yeah. I know. I know. She helps my wife too around the house. And then there's my 3-year-old who's like the exact opposite. She's naughty. She's like into everything, you know. But
terrible. It's not terrible 2s anymore. It's terrible 2s and 3s. It's expanded a year.
Can't wait till she turns 4. I'll tell you.
I hear you, brother. All right. Let's see. What do we got tomorrow here on the Barroom Network? It is Bar Down Hockey Talk. Vinny, Joey Parisi, who Johnny Santucci knows them from when they were little kids.
The Parisi brothers.
And Frankie Mueller. They're going to be talking Chicago Blackhawks, NHL, and lots of other sports news. They do a great job of mixing in other sports news besides hockey. It's a very entertaining show. If you are available at 2:00, stop by and check it out for a little while, or if not, check it out on demand. And then tomorrow night, I believe it is Science Fiction at 9 p.m. I'm not sure what the guys are going to cover, but they will definitely cover it well. And then on Thursday, it is Greg Gabriel, myself, talking football. We've definitely got a lot of combine talk, and we'll talk about some of the other things going on.
I have 2 shows tomorrow, Aldo.
I
got my normal spot with David Behrman every Wednesday night, but I have Miami Sports Babe tomorrow, and she has massive.
Oh my God!
Tune in 6:30 Central tomorrow.
6:30 Central.
I hope she's not watching this. Oh goodness, she probably is.
I think
she's very hot, man. I just talk Miami. I don't know much about Miami sports. I could talk a little Heat, Dolphins, and stuff like that. But
you're going to be in Heat.
I'll just be watching. I'll try to keep my eyes up. You know.
There you go. And then let's see. After that on Thursday, Crosstown Crosstalk with Vinny Parisi, and then on Thursday night, Draft on Tap. Danny and Neil will
love Draft on Tap. Saw the last one; it was great.
Yeah, those guys.
Last episode was great with Neil and Danny.
They really, really put the work in. This is not just 2 guys talking extemporaneously about draft picks. They watch tape, and they come very well prepared. So I'm looking forward to that on Thursday night. And that's it. That's our show for tonight. I hope Dan Aguirre is safe and sound wherever he is. He said he was going to work, but I got a feeling he's with a woman because Dan gets it on. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Take care.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to Dan and Aldo Bare Their Souls. Make sure you subscribe to the Barroom Network and you give us a rating on iTunes. Until next week, my name is Nomfe. Bear down.